Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the Sunday Wire. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. We're streaming out live on the Alternate Current Radio Network, also at 21stCenturyWire.com. We're also streaming out live on X, on YouTube, Rumble as well, BitChute, and a few other platforms. Great to have you with us. Appreciate you guys coming along for the ride today. We're going to be covering a number of different issues, and we've had trouble connecting our first guest, so we may have to push that segment back maybe later in the program if we can iron out the technicals, but we're going to move forward with the rest of the agenda for today. We'll be joined in the second hour by Dr. Zachary Foster to talk about the supposed ceasefire that's happening or should have happened or isn't happening, both in Gaza, but also in Lebanon as well. We'll touch on those issues and try to break down the details of them in the second hour. And we'll also be joined by our colleagues from the Alternate Current Radio Network, Hesher, host of the Boiler Room. I think we'll bring him up on stage right now. Hesher, great to have you with us.
Hey, great to be here, Patrick.
And so we got a few things cooking. Obviously, we're hoping to be joined by Ruckus as well at some point during the program, if he's able to make it. We had to sort of shuffle the program a little bit because of the technical issues connecting with Lebanon. We had Layla Haitoum, who's a fantastic journalist, who was going to join us in the first hour. But unfortunately, because of technical issues, she's probably not going to be able to join us this week unless we can kind of sort something out on the back end, but that might take an hour or so. I'm not sure if we'll actually be able to do that in the end while we're trying to do the broadcast. It's always a challenge to try to do those things at the same time. But in the meantime, Hesher, I just want to kick it over to you. I want to thank you for joining us on our X Space last night. Ruckus was also there. We had Jason Leosatos dropping in as well. Always great to hear from Jason. But we were talking about Trump. The second term of Trump, is this a renaissance? Is it going to be the golden age of America as it's being billed, or is it going to be the apocalypse? We're not sure. We tried to get through some of those issues. The one issue we didn't spend a lot of time was the Israel issue. We did go through Ukraine a lot. We talked about Project Stargate. Maybe we'll touch on some of that towards the end. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on for that. That was a great discussion. I got some amazing feedback. Had a pretty good crowd. At one point, I think our high water mark, we had about 600 people there on the space during sort of the peak time on that. But what were your impressions from that? I mean, you've done a few spaces now, Hesher. It's an interesting format. It's kind of a unique way of doing forums, kind of like kind of mass radio with like you can manage big panels. I mean, how did you feel about the discussion last night?
Oh, it was great. I really enjoyed it, and I love the format. It's cool because it reminds me of the old days when all we had was our little web chats, on our websites, and sometimes, Twitter in the 1.0. I'd always remember back. I actually listened to the first Boiler Room the other night from 2015, which was you and me and Spore and Basil, and I heard us shouting out, people that we saw on Twitter, people that had been listening to Sunday Wire and were there for that first episode. And, we used to just only have that. Like if we keep our eye on Twitter, somebody would at us on Twitter, you'd see it pop up. And then we had our web chat, and that was how we communicated with the people that were listening to us. And with Spaces, it's kind of like that, but just amped up because you've got this big audience there, and experts will come up, people that are subject matter experts or people that have a really good question that, we may not have veered into without them coming up. So it's nice to have that format where someone can, request to come on stage and you can bring them on. And, like last night when Simon and Danielle both came on, that really took the conversation into the realm of finance. Which, I'm definitely not an expert in, especially when it comes to the crypto aspect and how that plays into the traditional finance. So that was really cool to have those two with us, and all the other people dropping comments. It really, I always find that when we're on the Twitter space, I've used the analogy a few times of a tapestry. It seems to lay out a much wider tapestry, not that we can't rock and roll when it's just, us and our microphones, but it's really cool to have our folks on X come out and shape that conversation with us. It really takes on a lot of extra context, and thought it was a really great conversation. I felt like I learned a lot as far as the financial aspect. It's like I understand and I know where CBDCs and crypto are headed, and what the pros and cons with it are. But we got some really pithy perspective there, and I feel like I was able to fill in a lot of blanks with our guests. And then, of course, we wrap that in with the geopolitics, the U.S. national politics, and it ends up being a really full discussion. So, 4.5 hours can slip by really fast when you've got a great crew like that and engaged listeners, and just really fun. So yeah, I really appreciated that, and I'm sure some of those folks that were there last night are here today. So thank you to everybody that followed us over from Twitter, from X, to the Sunday Wire today here on 21stCenturyWire.com and Alternate Current Radio. It's great.
Yeah, and we are sort of, hopelessly black-pilled on so many of these issues. So obviously the crew that we're bringing to a panel like that, which is myself, you, Ruckus, Jason Leosatos as well, and a few other people that came on. I mean, Simon Dixon is, to me, a great resource, especially on the cryptocurrency conversation and finance in general. He's a great student of the markets, of economics. He's also probably one of the best sort of advocates for Bitcoin out there. Very balanced, very sort of grounded on his sort of take on things. He's been in the game for a while. Really appreciated his input as well. But there's enough diversity within the crew that we're kind of bringing to the spaces. I think within our kind of red to black pill range, there's a good enough diversity in different interest areas that we all have that I think makes for a really, really good, productive discussion as well. And a few other personalities dropped in as well who contributed some great points, actually. So it's probably one of the best spaces we've done yet. So we'll kind of keep those going, usually doing those on Saturday, most Saturdays. And this has been working out really well, very well attended. And it's a great warm up as well for the rest of the programming that we do during the week. Now, Hesher, we're going to bring this up on stage here because this is the piece de la resistance of the week. Elon Musk, our fearless leader there at the head of X, he got caught in this kind of Nazi salute controversy or debacle here. And I'm just going to throw this up on screen. The German media have been having an absolute field day with this. So, and we'll show some of his clips from the AfD, Alternative for Deutschland. This is sort of the right-wing political party that he's trying to boost or take over in Germany. And so his kind of Roman salutatory antics. I mean, so now the problem is for Elon, he regards himself as the SHIT Lord of social media, the Lord of memes. He trolls the world. This is Elon's kind of pet sort of claim to fame. And now Europe is trolling him to the ends of the hemisphere. And he's kind of, Hesher, I'm going to say, shot himself in the foot. And I know there's a lot of people that are trying to kind of rescue him out of this, but it's just, imagine if anybody else did this on that stage of all stages. And then, so it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one. So the German press is absolutely eating him alive on this. And a Hitler salute is a Hitler salute. This is Die Zeit, the German media as well. And so I don't know your impressions on this. You kind of know my views on it, because the reason it's controversial and the reason Elon's running kind of damage control on this is because he is heavily dabbling in right-wing politics. With Tommy Robinson, he's trying to dangle money in front of AfD. He's dangling money in front of Reform. He wants them to kind of have a political platform that's kind of his liking. Has to include certain things and talking points. And he said Nigel Farage is not extreme enough, needs to be replaced. And Nigel Farage was like, "Oh, wait a minute, who are you? Are you British?" So Elon feels the power of the success of Trump, Hesher, That's what I think as well is happening. And he thinks that he can basically change the world and mold it in his image or whatever his image is this year. Because we have to remind everybody, Elon Musk backed Barack Obama in 2008. Elon Musk backed Obama in 2012. Elon Musk backed Hillary Clinton in 2016. Elon Musk backed Joe Biden in 2020. He is a career Democrat. He's a liberal and a self-avowed socialist. But in the last 18 months, he's had a miraculous epiphany and a conversion. He's a conservative. And he's not just a conservative, he is a far right, aggressive far right. I wouldn't even call it conservative at this point. I don't know what to make. We know he's a technocrat. Come on. I mean,
Yeah.
get into that analysis, but your general thoughts on this. What are you observing here?
Well, Zuckerberg's rebranding was abysmal. I don't know if anyone's buying it. So many of the people that have rebranded themselves to duct tape themselves to Donald Trump in the last few years leading up to his second election have done a really poor job of rebranding themselves. I don't know who's buying the Zuckerberg rebranding. We went from Mr. Data to Spicoli, and everybody's supposed to be okay with that. Like, I mean, okay, you're sorry about censoring everyone, and you're going to be more like Elon. Great, that's not a very good rebrand. Elon, however, at least in the American, national lens, his rebranding was brilliant. We'll give him that. You bought Twitter. You facilitated the release of the Twitter files. You created a massive. You overhauled X and created this massive overhauled Twitter, renamed it X, created this massive space where people, where MAGA could flourish and where people felt like, now I can say the things I felt like I couldn't say before because I saw people like Patrick Henningsen and Bryan McClain get shadow banned and turned off and, deplatformed and all the stuff. Right. But Elon seems to have taken, this has gone to his head. I'm afraid it's gone to his head. And, I'm not surprised it's gone to his head. Look at him. He's hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. They're trying to figure out what office in the White House is going to work out best for him. Donald Trump will even say in the amazing to see Donald Trump sitting there signing executive orders with his big Sharpie, his big expensive looking Sharpie. By the way, what is he writing when he signs that? Is that Donald Trump? It looks like a death metal logo or something. The way it looks like too many letters to be Donald Trump. Maybe it says the President of the United States. I'm not sure, but anyway, it's like he's grafted himself into this so hard. I think his head's just gotten too big, and he thinks he can do this in every other country. And maybe he doesn't realize, how skeptical people in places like Germany, in Europe as a whole, in the UK, view him and view Americans and view American politics, perhaps. I mean, I don't know. Maybe too much microdosing to the point where that just wasn't an earnest thing that he was doing for his heart going out to everybody. But my goodness, like, can you really be that dense? I mean, you're gonna do that, and I mean, it's I think you're right. I think he shot himself in the foot. I think his head probably got too big. I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for him. You should know how that looks. But of course, to the people that are so upset about it, if you're really concerned about fascism, and we've been saying this, for a long time, you need look no further than your own country. We've got plenty of systemic fascism and socialism ingrained in the American financial system, the business system, the schooling system, the media system. And could we talk about the military-industrial complex and how much money has gone to fascist and Nazi regimens inside of Zelensky's crew there? There he is right there, the comedian himself. Yeah. Wow. He got that shirt custom made. I am Ukrainian. Yeah. So, It's no surprise to see the people of Germany pretty upset about this. They're calling it for what it is. They're not going to take any of the copium and the excuses that the hardcore MAGAs that just love Elon. So I find that all very interesting. Hundreds of billions of our tax dollars and military equipment going to Azov battalions and stuff, and nobody says a word except for people like us and people that watch us until Elon gets up and does this cartoonish display. So I don't really care what was going on in his head. What should have been going on in his head was, hey, this is a verboten hand signal that I'm giving here, but maybe he didn't think about it. I don't know. I just find everybody being so upset about it funny. I find it, kind of entertaining personally, because so many people were also labeled Nazis over the years. It's like the term has been utterly diluted. Like like so many of the ideological terms out there that were weaponized against conservatives and Trump supporters on the first round are just so watered down now. So it's been pretty interesting to watch.
So here's Alex Jones, obviously really pumping up Elon and Trump. So that's kind of, Alex has gone full time. He's joined the sort of Elon's PR team and sort of the White House. So, and I don't blame him. Alex has been pretty much wiped out financially. So he'll make a big comeback. I think InfoWars is always going to be a successful brand, but it's just kind of gushingly over the top. At some point, it kind of gets annoying. But anyway, here he is breaking, says, watch Elon Musk, Operation 1776 worldwide. So Alex thinks that he and Elon and Trump are going to liberate the whole world and turn it all into one giant Pax Americana, where everybody's like a state of the U.S. basically, or any white sort of marginally Anglo enclaves anywhere in the world could potentially be liberated. Even the Eskimos in Greenland. We'll give a waiver for them, not completely, Anglo-Saxon for Elon's sort of range of Pantone colors, but they'll probably make a exception for them, I guess, because of all the rare earth minerals. But so this is so Elon jumped into the AFD rally via Zoom or whatnot, and he basically saying this. Now, do you remember the U.S. election was the future of humanity? Now it's the German election. Hesher, the fate of humanity rests with the German people. So the last election was for deciding the fate of humanity, but only until this next election. No, this one's the fate of humanity. The German election will decide the fate of humanity, if you can believe this. Here we go.
Emphasize enough. Go do everything you can. Full blast.
Anyway, for whatever reason, probably may have lost the audio on that.
I'll put every effort. I can't
anyway, we'll try to work out the details of that later. But suffice to say, well, I'll play it without the audio. Unfortunately, it would be nice.
I can actually hear it. I don't know about the audience, but I can hear it.
Oh, you could hear it. Okay, hold on. We'll bring that. We'll rewind that there.
I can't emphasize enough. Go do everything you can. Full blast. I'll put every effort you can into this election. The fate of the world, I think, rests upon this election in Germany. It's extremely fundamental. Everything you can, please go all out. Thank you.
So that's it's a bit clownish. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't know really what to say about it. I mean, if you're a big fan and you've sort of bought into the cult of personality of all this, it's probably fantastic. It's great. What could be better? You're just winning. You're on a massive winning streak until you're not. So
yeah,
that it's like going to lecture the Germans on their sort of national ID is quite something, coming from a South African who is America first, but now he's German first, and next week he might be British first. I don't know. So he's all over the place.
It's amazing. It's really amazing. I mean, I guess. Do you think he actually has any any similar influence in other countries? Because I know Donald Trump, like there's we've spoken to so many people around the world, since the first Trump presidency, and I know that a lot of people in various different countries really look to Donald Trump sometimes as a beacon of returning to freedom and sovereignty and stuff. And I'm sure that still exists, in some of our brother and sister countries out there. But what about Elon? Does Elon think he has that same sort of gravitas? Like, he's great. He's a decent shit lord, decent meme lord. But he's really riding on tactics and techniques that many of us many veterans of the long meme wars have been using for a decade now. So, I mean, he's really, aside from his extended, reach in communication, he's really not doing anything helpful, anything different, anything unique than just sort of the standard protocol for, your marginally intelligent shit poster.
So, and if that's not to be outdone, we'll also look at this next exhibit here. Hesher will go to our next exhibit, and hopefully, I don't know, let us know, Hesher, give us a thumbs up if you are able to hear the audio on this.
I got a confirmation from the audience. Spore was able to hear that last clip. So I think
that's good news. That is good news. So the next one is, this is the Aryan Barbie. No, it's getting clownish at this point. But
I
anyway,
almost just spit my coffee on the monitor there. That was great.
So it says Naomi Seabit. I am proud to be German. Elon Musk has shared a powerful message with us at the AfD rally today. And so she's really kind of pretty pumped up about Elon's liberated Germans, and now it's okay for them to be proud to be Germans, as if there weren't any proud Germans in the whole of Germany, 80 million people or whatever, powerhouse of Europe, #1 in the European Union, best manufacturing in the world, but their manufacturing has been destroyed by the United States, forcing them to adopt sanctions. That's something that doesn't come up in Elon's thing, and that gets us to the actual point of all this in a moment, Hesher. But here she is. This is Naomi. So let me take you on a journey through my experience growing up in Germany. She's saying, I'm no longer going to be apologetic about my Germanness. I mean, maybe she's got an issue personally, but here is the Aryan Barbie.
I am proud to be German, and it's okay to be proud to be German.
It's okay to be proud to be German. This is a very important principle. It's okay, it's good to be proud of German culture, German values, and not to lose that in some sort of multiculturalism that dilutes everything.
Those words moved an entire nation today when Elon Musk said them out loud at the greatest AfD rally of all time. Most people seriously underestimate the extent of the German guilt that has plagued our people for decades. I grew up unable to appreciate my heritage because I couldn't even understand what German culture meant. But then when I turned 5 years old, I picked up the violin. That's when I first got in touch with German classical music. And a few years later, I played bass violin concerto for 2 violins in D minor together with my mum. And then when I started playing the piano, I fell in love with Beethoven's Moonshine Sonata, the 3rd part in particular, because it's very fast and very energetic.
Okay, so
and to me,
I mean, give me your honest assessment of this, Hesher. What do you think from just media value, propaganda value? How are you reading this?
I don't know. It's something that if I was just on the doom scroll and went through this, I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time there. I mean, like, where are we at? It's just like, it's okay for me to have some pride in my culture and my nation. I mean, the fact that we have to argue about that, I mean, really brings the conversation down to a pretty low level. I mean, we're looking at national and international policies right now that could lead to World War III. We're looking at financial situations that could lead to World War III or larger conflicts in other places. We here in America are looking at a situation with the intelligence state, the security state, the aftermath of 4 years of, you know, open borders and extreme psychological operations being run on the public, that, you know, we could have a black swan event here just for us. I don't think Germany's going to have one. They already had their black swan event when the Nord Stream, you know, when
Yeah.
Ukraine kicked off and Nord
Hello.
Stream was taken out. Like, why
So
is that not brought up? Why am I hearing her talk? Who is this girl? Why am I hearing her talk about Beethoven when they
I,
can't get energy? They have to go cut trees. They have to leave the house in the snow and cut trees down to heat their homes in some cases.
well, it's like they're trying to have this. Oh, we're not going to harbor white guilt. It's like it's kind of like this anti-woke thing. It's like Jordan Peterson is basically in charge of communications at the Department of Ministry of Information Dispersal. To borrow a term, Joe versus the volcano. I think that
Yeah.
might have been I think that was the film. I'm not sure, but it's just this is kind of like not the big boys conversation. This is like the Jordan Peterson disaffected beta male, from like suburban Canada and in the U.S. The types of people that like Jordan Peterson and are feel like he's empowered them in life. And Elon Musk is definitely in that camp. And what they're not talking about, Hesher, is the fact that the United States militarily occupies Germany. If you want to talk about being proud to be German, why don't you kick out the Americans who've been militarily occupying Germany, who've cucked Berlin for like the best part of like 75 years already? Okay, we've got an NSA listening station there where you're up the yin yang of every single German MP, every single minister, tapping all of your phones, okay, blackmailing all of your politicians since the Second World War, okay, in all of your media. The CIA's up in Der Spiegel, they're up in Deutsche Welt, and they've been in there for decades. They run your editorial desk, right? So you guys don't have any sovereignty. Germany, you've got no freaking sovereignty. And then we went and blew up your pipeline so that you don't get cheap gas from Russia, so that you have to buy our overpriced LNG. And now all your industries are packing up and leaving. And guess where they're going? To the United States of America. But Elon saying, be proud to be German. This is a gaslighting operation, Hesher. Elon is working for the deep state as a gaslighting ringmaster in this, a maestro of this sick circus. This is a guy that was running point for Klaus Schwab's fourth industrial revolution for like the last 15 years. Okay, this is the guy that was pushing carbon taxes on Capitol Hill, Elon Musk. Okay, Green New Deal, not the enemy of AOC, the ally of AOC. Okay, this is the same guy. And here he is performing a masterful gaslighting operation. Germany, the problem with Germany isn't that they're not proud to be German. It's that they're occupied by the United States, and the U.S. intelligence has total control over that country. That's the freaking problem. And whatever the U.S. doesn't control in Germany, the Israeli intelligence are taking care of. Hello. Tell me what benefit Hesher Germany has by being involved in the Ukrainian conflict. Just give me one example, any benefit whatsoever, other than some bravado and dreams of an iron cross. Like, give me something. I can't see it.
No, I can't. There's nothing publicly available that we can see. I assume there's some probably, FTX style scamming going on in the background, a lot of money changing hands and titles and positions and power, but no, nothing for the actual citizens, nothing for the people there. And you're right. Like, what is this? You just dragging us back to like 2015 cultural warfare and trying to graft it onto the German people.
2015. How about 1935?
Okay. Right.
Listen to this chick.
For me, it sounds like fighting through life, and you fail time and time again, but you come back stronger every single time. And throughout that process, in that fight,
This is not
for
real.
a very
This
specific goal that you keep in mind.
Anyway,
Sure.
Elon's retweeting. This is what he's boosting at the moment, Hesher. Okay, so I'm literally going off his feed. I'm just it's ridiculous. This is kind of a joke.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the other thing, there's so many smart people there. You know what I mean? Like there are people there who could be talking about the reality that they're facing financially, with their energy crisis. You know what they actually need politically to progress, to make themselves better, to make life more prosperous for the people there. But what he chooses this young lady and boosts her. So what is obviously just one boost from Elon is enough to put someone in an elevated social media status. So like what's to gain from this? Like why is he not boosting someone like the German version of Simon from last night, or the German version of Patrick Henningsen or Jason Leosaltos? Give us boost.
Or God forbid ever boosting any of us. I mean,
No,
I'm banned for life. I will never be retweeted by Elon. He hates me. Absolutely. He demonetized me for no reason in September. Demonetized me, and I'm not even like one of his big accounts, but no warning, no nothing, just basically, yep, you're done.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
it was around the time I started criticizing him, which was interesting. I don't know if that's exactly why, but I do have my suspicions.
It was also around the time Basil got totally kicked off, so maybe we can blame Basil.
Sure. Anyway, I think Ruckus is going to come on stage in a moment. Now this is a particularly choice clip here. So this is Elon with his yes. So he has these one-word quote tweets, which is usually "wow." That's probably the most common. The other one is yes, then exactly, and concerning, and so these are kind of these one-word sort of abbreviated. So he's boosting Mario here, Mario Nafal, which is basically the Daily Mail of Twitter. And so if Elon says, if we don't maintain our cultural identities in the various countries, they will disappear. This is so profound, Hesher. I don't know. It's almost inspirational, the level of intellectual prowess that we are witnessing here. Italy is the people of Italy. Wow.
Oh.
The buildings are there. But really, what is Italy? Italy is the people of Italy. Is this, and they take the piss out of Kamala Harris for the word salads, for the sort of clownish commentary. And here's Elon. He's as bad as Kamala in terms of his like lack of articulate ability here. So listen to this clip. We'll play this, and I have my personal comments on this, but anyway. If you can suffer through his stuttering and his just general nerdy dorkiness, but here we are.
I think there is value to a culture, and we don't want Japan to disappear. We don't want Italy as a culture to disappear. We don't want France as a culture to disappear. I think we have to maintain the sort of reasonable cultural identity of the various countries. Well, they simply will not be those countries. Italy is the people of Italy. The buildings are there, but really, what is Italy? Italy is the people of Italy.
I mean, it's are you inspired by that, guys? Because I mean, in terms of your culture warrior, intellectual dark web, I mean, it's pretty inspirational, isn't it?
It sounds like your drunk uncle came to story time and is reading Dr. Seuss book to you or something.
So basically, here's my thing. Look at the background of this, guys. You're talking about culture. What sort of culture are we looking at here? We're looking at the wanky World Economic Forum corporate format. That's your freaking culture. Okay. You want to talk about cultures being steamrolled? Look at all the strip malls across America, most of which are vacant. Look at Walmart. Is that American culture? Because that's what these guys gave us. That's what Silicon Valley, Wall Street gave us. That's what the likes of Elon Musk have given us, is a corporate culture, an AI driven, now it's going to be an AI driven technocratic culture that will steamroll every bit of traditionalism you can imagine. Here's this guy who wants to put a wire in your brain, lecturing us on preserving culture. Well, European culture has blended and changed since the beginning of mankind. Since they came out of the cave, the Neanderthals, with their bits of flint and some bones, rubbing them together and then creating fire, cultures have basically mixed, changed, moved, merged. Look at Russia, modern Russia. It's a conglomeration of 4 different civilizations. Okay, this is just how it goes. But the culture that I'm concerned about is the corporate culture. It's the world economic culture. It's the Klaus Schwab 4th Industrial Revolution culture. That's the one I'm concerned about. And I see that one steamrolling pretty much everything that gets in its way. Hesher, go ahead.
Yeah. Which culture is it exactly that the World Economic Forum plans boosts? Is it any? Can you think of any country where a great reset? I'm being literal because that's the name of Schwab's book, The Great Reset. Is there any country where this happens, especially westernized countries, where his plan, if you read his writings, could take place and it would be a good thing for you and you would still be that country? I would argue no. The entire plan of his is one that reduces, maybe removes sovereignty. We're already looking at many national sovereign nations being faced with losing their sovereignty and having their whatever their founding documents are eroded by these plans of digital censorship, digital money, digital this, digital that, freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. These kind of initiatives are what the World Economic Forum and the Davos crowd loves. They love Larry Ellison's idea of a great vast panopticon where we're all surveilled 24/7, and you don't even need a person to watch all of the data because it's done by quantum computers and AI software to do pre-crime, essentially, to do social credit, essentially. So, we all know where that goes. We all know where that leads. And it doesn't lead to Italy remaining Italy, the United States remaining the United States, Greenland remaining Greenland, Canada, where's my Canadians?
Denmark remaining Denmark. I mean, has Donald Trump ever been to Copenhagen? That he's got such contempt for the Danish, who that the largest autonomous territory is Greenland, obviously, and any appreciation for Scandinavian and Danish culture, because there's quite a lot of that in Greenland. There's quite a lot of that. And what would happen if America takes over Greenland? Is it going to become more Americanized? Is that a better culture? I don't know, because every American I know that has the means will take their holidays in the south of France or Tuscany or in the Swiss Alps or in Spain or Ibiza. Why? Because they want to get away from the kind of corporate world or American homogeneity of the United States. They want to see something different. They go to South America. So again, this is Elon gaslighting. He's basically throwing this argument out using emotive triggers to kind of trigger and dog whistle what he thinks is the right wing, but not talking about what he's actually doing to society. And his buddies, Larry Ellison, his buddy Bill Gates, his buddy Mark Zuckerberg, and all these guys, they are one big cartel. They work together. They have ownership in each other's companies. They have the same banks. Their boards overlap. These guys are all in the same team.
Fistful
So,
of government contracts, all of them.
oh, government contracts. So Elon was railing again, gaslighting, guys, gaslighting. Today he was railing against people on disability benefits, okay, entitlements, and how they're robbing the American taxpayer. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's interesting. Maybe we can look at those on a case-by-case basis, but they're kind of small as individual issues. But what about corporate welfare? What about corporate welfare? What about hundreds of billions a year in corporate welfare and government contracts and fake green subsidies for electric vehicles? As an example, okay, what about that? What about a fake green agenda that Tesla is basically based on? What about that? It's the gaslighting. I mean, it's so obvious what this guy does. He's got it down to an art form. He works the crowd. He's got the mob there, and they're simping, and they love him, and he's telling them what they want to hear. He's hitting all their hot button emotional issues and saying, look over here, but don't look at what the fuck I'm doing over here. Because this is the game. Ruckus, what do you think about this? Elon's coming in to rescue the Germans from themselves.
That's really funny because he's a car maker. Think about that one. Anyways, yeah, Germany, I don't know. That's one of those places that I think of when I was a kid, like growing up in the 80s, that we Americanized after the fall of the Berlin Wall. 100%. There was a part of, yeah, so there was a part of Germany that was supposed to become like America, and ultimately meant they put like McDonald's, and people were buying Levi's jeans and all this ridiculous crap, which just means, okay, so what is America? America is the land of consumerism, and it has been for quite a while. And they're just repackaging all the new thing that they're selling, not just Americans, but the entire world on, are all of these cool gadgetries, the technological crap, the smartphones, the Teslas, all of these things that ultimately, when you look outside from the 30,000 foot view, or whatever the term is there, it looks to me like they're building an ultimate technocratic surveillance grid, and we're all like willy-nilly just jumping in like, this is fun, and they're, we're buying all these crazy cryptocurrencies. Sure, there's a use case for those things to, escape the pressures coming from fiat money, but we've got people pumping and dumping meme coins, including the new president. So it's really wild what's happening here. I don't know much about the geopolitics, of course. That's why I listen to you guys when you talk about this stuff, because this is your area. But I've been thinking a lot about the whole Tesla thing, because it doesn't make sense that, like, for him to push Tesla and for Tesla to be so big, it was hinged upon the climate change scam. But now he's playing Mr. Conservative, and that doesn't necessarily play well with that. We saw Donald Trump get us out of the Paris Accord agreements.
Elon doesn't talk about it anymore. It's
right.
not.
He doesn't
it's not even mentioned.
Right, because
he's abandoned all of that.
Well, I believe it plays into the technocratic grid and surveillance and technocracy future, and that it really was never about the climate at all, because these things can be controlled, operated, they drive themselves, they can lock you in there, they can stop your car and prevent you. It's really, it's again, another one of these things. And now he's just got the cool factor. So now conservatives who are like, oh, I'm not interested in an electric car, like, oh, Tesla, because it's cool, because it's Elon. I don't know. That's how I look at it.
That's how it was a status symbol in Washington, D.C. for Democrats to drive Tesla, and in California. Hesher's nodding his head because he knows exactly what I'm talking about. A status symbol. Why? Because nobody could afford it but a millionaire liberal and people in Silicon Valley and DC that were just basically on another kind of level of society. And that was his market. And he sold that dream to them because it was a way of virtue signaling. To be out on the road and driving a Tesla was just to make a statement that you were doing your part for the planet, even if it cost $100,000 to drive, and only a small percentage of the population could afford one. That's kind of how he built the brand. And now he's pivoted, and he's reinvented himself as a conservative in the last 18 months. As Hesher said, brilliantly, the most brilliant rebranding ever of anybody in politics. You got to hand it to him. He absolutely has done that. But can he maintain it? Can he hold it? And just back to this panel here. Do you want, do you guys want to be sitting on a BlackRock sponsored corporate panel at some international gala event. I mean, there's just an endless, litany of these sort of events. This world tour these guys are constantly on, pontificating with word salads about, the greatest thing about Italy is the Italian people. I mean, thank you, Elon, for enlightening us. The intellectual dark web has never been stronger, guys. Eat your heart out, Eric Weinstein. Elon's making a power play here to lead the IDW. So I'm sorry, guys. It's becoming a clown show, and I'm getting attacked for calling it out by his loyal supporters who are saying, Patrick, what have you done? What successful companies have you built? Or the last one I got yesterday was, well, what have you done for your country? Elon, look what he's doing for the country. What have you done for your country? And I'm like, okay, if that's where we're at, I can't criticize the richest man in the world who just bought himself a seat in the White House for $200 million. You're not able to criticize that, folks. And I'm thinking to myself, it's Al Duce. We're in the Mussolini era again. It's like Mussolini 2.0. Don't criticize Benito. So this is kind of like how things develop with corporatism, So I'm just being a skeptic, and I'm being the loyal opposition here for the people. And I'm also, here he is. There he is. Uncle Benito said it. Fascism should more appropriately be called corporativism because it is a merger of state and corporate power. Benito Mussolini. And he would know, wouldn't he? He would have a good idea of what it's all about because he's sort of a founding member of that club. Guys, we're going to take a break here, and we're going to connect Dr. Zachary Foster on the other side. You're welcome to join us backstage for this. We're going to talk about the Gaza ceasefire. And after Zachary's gone through some of this explosive material that he's going to walk us through, I'm going to also, if you guys are available, to come up for any Q&A on this very important topic. But we're here at the Sunday Wire. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. I'm joined by our crew at ACR, Hesher, Bryan McClain, Adam Clark, a.k.a. Ruckus. And we're going to take a break right now with the network. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by Dr. Zachary Foster to talk about the ceasefire. The ceasefire that is a ceasefire. Is it happening? Is it not? It looks like it's been broken in 6 ways to Sunday. We'll talk about this, explain what's going on. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. We'll be back in just a few minutes. In the meantime, enjoy the music of Joseph Arthur.
Brothers and sisters, we're being divided. Don't believe what they say. Hold on to your soul. Everyone divided in an echo chamber hole, saying that the enemy doesn't have a soul.
place. I think that, but who cares anyway? Most becoming puppets being told the words to say. In the days of outrage, for the charity, held hostage by opinion in a cage they never see. The ego deals in conflict, love is hardly free. Focus on the difference between both you and me. Divide them with opinion, judging ruthlessly. Make sure you get them angry at what the others see. Beyond all these opinions, you and I are one, but media won't tell you that they'd rather see you run. Lead with hate and anger and cacophonies of rage, to judge each other evil, conflicts re-engage. Keep the zombies clicking as the engine revs and screams. The engine of division is the devil's best machine. But imagine for a second being led a different way. A message of forgiveness and love brought every day. Divide them with opinion, judge it ruthlessly. Make sure you get them angry at what the others see. Divide and conquer, conquer and divide. When they lead with hatred, they don't want you to survive. Divide and conquer, conquer and divide. When they lead with hatred, they don't want you to survive. They don't want you to survive. They don't want you to survive. They don't want you to
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the program, to the Sunday Wire. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. Thank you for rejoining us. Very interesting discussion before the break with our crew from ACR, Hesher and Ruckus, joining us there for a little analysis about Elon Musk. We're going to switch gears right now, and we're going to talk about Donald Trump, but also about the Middle East, specifically Israel and Palestine. And I want to welcome onto the stage a very special guest right now. His name is Dr. Zachary Foster, Palestine Nexus. He is the editor of this amazing website and also fantastic newsletter. We'll throw up some details about his work and where to find him just later in this segment. But let me bring him onto the stage right now. Zach, it's great to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Patrick, thanks so much for having me back.
No, it's our pleasure indeed. First of all, if you introduce yourself, Zachary, for our listeners, who people who aren't familiar with your work, how you got into your sort of area of expertise right now. I think you're probably one of the leading independent scholars, at least on the minute-to-minute analysis of what's going on, and also providing the history of the region, which I think you offer on Palestine Next, as you run courses as well for people. So if you can just introduce yourself and what you're doing right now, Zachary.
Thanks for that introduction, Patrick. I did a PhD in Middle East history at Princeton, focusing on the history of the Palestinian people, the origins of actually the word Palestine. When did people start to call themselves Palestinians? I also write a newsletter called Palestine in Your Inbox, where we try to provide historical context for the present moment. We just published a piece on the long history of ceasefire agreements between Hamas and Israel, for example, in which, wait for it, Israel has violated every single ceasefire agreement it signed with Hamas. So we're trying to provide that historical context for what's happening today. And we also run courses. We have courses on Zionism, on a history of the Palestine question itself. And in this coming spring, we're going to launch a course on a history of the Palestinian people as well.
Yeah, so it's a great resource, folks. And again, if you go to X, and he'll be linked probably on this live stream right now, just go to Zachary Foster's X page there. That'll give you links. We'll also put some graphics up on stage towards the end of the segment. Now, on this issue, Zachary, I want to get your comment. This is our jumping off point here. There was a lot of talk before the inauguration of Donald Trump that there was a ceasefire that was in the works, and the anticipation was brewing. And as if by magic, Joe Biden announces that we've finally, at long last, after 15 months, we've reached a ceasefire agreement, and the hostages are coming home. And Trump has worked together with Biden to make this happen. This is basically what the headlines looked like at the time, Zachary. So Trump calls for, well, this is separate article, but we'll go back to that in a minute. We'll talk about that, the ethnic cleansing aspect. But so what did you make of that? I mean, because I know yourself, you're very skeptical. Other really keen analysts were looking at that saying, hold on for a minute. There's something going on here. And I know that you're a student of the history of broken ceasefire agreements. So did you see some of the same things at play that you noticed from past promises of ceasefires?
Well, within days of having signed a ceasefire agreement, Israel violated it multiple times. They killed 2 Palestinians in northern Gaza City. They injured 7. There were reports of Israeli soldiers in the Gaza Strip shooting at Palestinians in the Netzarim corridor. Now we have reports today of delays with regard to Israeli withdrawal from the Gaza Strip itself, especially with regard to the return of Palestinians from southern Gaza Strip to the northern Gaza Strip. Those reports are surfacing today. So all of this was expected. Israel has violated every single ceasefire agreement it's signed with the Palestinians since 2008. We could talk about that. So this is all very much expected. Having said that, I would emphasize that this ceasefire deal that Donald Trump's real estate investor, Witkoff, I believe is his name, he played a critical role, a vital role in pressing Netanyahu to sign this agreement. We've known for a long time that Netanyahu has had no desire to sign a ceasefire deal with Hamas. We know that because since October 8th, 2023, Netanyahu has repeated the point that the goal of Israel is not to come to a ceasefire and agreement with Hamas. It's the total annihilation of Hamas. And they've repeated that goal dozens and dozens of times over the past 15 and a half months. And that became especially clear in January 2023 when the Israeli government assassinated Saleh Aruri, the newly appointed Hamas spokesperson based in Beirut, indicating that they weren't interested in talking with Hamas officials. They were interested in murdering them. Then, of course, what did Israel do after that? They proceeded to assassinate not the spokesperson of Hamas, but the Chief Bureau of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, who was at the time the main counterpart that they were speaking with in order to land a ceasefire agreement. So it was obvious already from the summertime that they had no interest in a ceasefire agreement. And then on top of that, they continued to press forward on in Lebanon, again, indicating they weren't interested in a ceasefire deal with Hamas. They were interested in eradicating Hezbollah and continuing the assault on the Gaza Strip. So this was very clearly the work of this Donald Trump envoy, Witkoff, believe is his name. He played a critical role. There were a few other things to note with regard to the ceasefire deal. I think, first of all, public opinion polls have been shifting in Israel. Some indications are that some 60, potentially as many as 70% of Israeli citizens now support a ceasefire deal, not because they care at all about the people of Gaza or that they want to bring humanitarian relief to Gaza. No, they want the hostages back. And they know that the only way to get the hostages back, by the way, and the prisoners of war back, you have, most of these hostages are actually prisoners of war. They're not hostages because they were Israeli soldiers enforcing an illegal blockade, a suffocating blockade for 17 years. So they're prisoners of war. But the Israeli public wanted those prisoners of war and hostages back, which is, I think, ultimately what also played a critical role in explaining how Netanyahu eventually came to agree to this ceasefire deal. Also, the third point I would make is that the Israeli military has been suffering in Gaza. Some 25% of armored vehicles were reportedly destroyed. That figure, by the way, was a figure released by the Israeli military itself. We know even in the very last week, Hamas forces managed to kill something like 15 Israeli soldiers in Beit Lahia in the north, which was the very first place that Israel invaded back in October 2023. Here we are 15 and a half months later. They're still fighting in Beit Lahia. They failed to control a single area of the Gaza Strip. They failed to dominate any neighborhood. Literally, there's no place in the Gaza Strip that the Israeli military managed to clear out of Hamas fighters. So the military campaign was failing. The Israeli public wanted the hostages back. And then Trump's aide basically said, look, you sign a ceasefire deal before the election because we do not want to have to deal with this mess on day one of our administration. So for those reasons, I think we are now in stage one of the ceasefire, and we will see what happens with regard to whether or not the parties agree to move forward with phase 2 and 3. That remains to be determined.
So what's the length of time for phase 1? Are we talking about, at the end of February, beginning of March, and then what happens there? Could this fall apart? Could Israel turn around and say, well, and I think they've already done this with Lebanon, but could they say, well, Hamas or, like they did with Hezbollah, they're not abiding by our terms, therefore we're not going to, observe a ceasefire. What are the odds that might happen, Zachary, phase 2, 3?
Right. So the phase 1 is supposed to last for 42 days. And beginning on day 16 of phase 1, which is coming up, the parties are supposed to begin negotiating the terms of phase 2, right? Because during phase 2, Israel is supposed to complete its withdrawal from the Philadelphia corridor, that is the border separating Gaza and Egypt. That process is supposed to come to completion, I believe, in the 8 or 10 days or so following the end of phase 1. Israel is also supposed to agree to a further list of Palestinian prisoners of war that they've held captive for, in some cases, years, if not decades. The two parties are supposed to agree to a further prisoner swap in which Israel will agree to release however many Palestinian prisoners in exchange for the prisoners of war captured by Hamas on October 7th. Israel will also agree to continue to withdraw from further areas of the Gaza Strip in which they're currently maintaining a presence, including in the north, in Beit Lahia and Jabalia and Beit Hanun, as well as in the Netzarim corridor, as well as in that 750-meter security zone that they've established surrounding the entirety of the Gaza Strip. So that should begin in phase 2. Now, whether or not Israel will actually agree to move forward remains to be seen. What we know is that the coalition government in Israel includes Bezalel Smotrich and his National Religious Party. And Smotrich has already said, if phase 2 proceeds as planned, I'm going to withdraw from the coalition, which would mean a collapse of the coalition. And so, and by the way, Ben-Gvir, the other member of the other far-right member of the coalition, has already pulled out of the coalition. Netanyahu managed to pull in Yair Lapid, a center-left politician. Well, there's no real left in Israel, but let's call him a center politician, into the coalition in lieu of Ben-Gvir. So right now, the coalition is managing by a thin thread, and it will likely collapse in the event that Netanyahu signs and moves forward with phase 2. We already heard we already heard U.S. President Donald Trump say multiple times in interviews in the past week, I'm skeptical, I'm doubtful. I can't recall his exact words, but when asked whether or not he believed the ceasefire will hold and will continue on to phase 2 and phase 3, he said, I'm doubtful. So, and then in addition to that, we've already had announcements from Bibi Netanyahu himself saying, I don't have to, this is a one-phase deal. That there's nothing in phase 1 that prevents me from scrapping the deal and carrying on with the genocide. He said that openly. So I think we're, and so the real question is, will Trump insist that this deal continues onwards? Or will Trump just let Netanyahu do whatever he wants? As we all know, Trump is a wild card, very hard to predict. So it's not really clear what will happen. I would say, look, if it's Trump making the decisions, I bet the ceasefire will proceed forward. But if it's Trump's cabinet members making the decisions, his Secretary of State, Mark Rubio, or his proposed Secretary of Defense, Sedgwick, was it? The former Fox.
Yeah, I don't think he'll have much of a hand in it, but definitely Rubio and his sort of close advisors. You mentioned his envoy there to the Middle East. A lot of it is the question of, I know Donald Trump doesn't seem to me, Zachary, I don't know if you agree, of somebody who bothers much with details and nuance. So I mean, he can be manipulated, and the Israelis are the masters of these, working these sort of deals in their favor, creating leverage, demonizing the other side, setting them up to fail. This has all been done before.
Yeah, I mean, his ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, said already more than a decade ago, there's quote unquote no such thing as a Palestinian. And then he said that the West Bank is actually called Judea and Samaria, which is the term used by Israel's far-right ministers, as well as Netanyahu, as well as many in the mainstream,
to describe more mainstream. Yeah, that term
to describe occupied Palestinian territory. He's using ancient biblical words to describe occupied Palestinian territory. And then, if that wasn't bad enough, he also said there's no such thing as occupation. There's no such thing as occupation. This is a person who believes 5 million Palestinians, 2 million living in the Gaza Strip, 3.5 million in the West Bank, should be permanent subjects of Israel's apartheid regime. They should be less than human beings. They should have less rights than Jews. That is what the United States ambassador to Israel has said openly. And that's what we're dealing with when we're talking about Trump's cabinet members, Trump's inner circle, the people that are advising Trump on Israel-Palestine.
And I'm going to bring up on screen something that you've shared on your feed here. Speaking of biblical references, Zachary, this is Elise Stefanik. She is Donald Trump's UN ambassador. And she's here. You said Elise Stefanik believes that the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan is illegitimate, and the true heirs of the country are the Moabites, the Edomites, and the Ammonites. This is the person who will represent the United States at the UN. I'm going to play this clip, and I want to get your comments. So, I mean, wow, this is kind of like what we're dealing with at the moment. If Mike Huckabee wasn't bad enough, this is the UN ambassador. Listen to this. It's during a Senate confirmation hearing here.
But I did ask you whether you subscribe to the views of Finance Minister Smotrich.
I'm sorry,
Smotrich. This is the Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich and the former National Security Minister Ben-Gvir, who believe that Israel has a biblical right to the entire West Bank. And in that conversation, you told me that, yes, you shared that view. Is that your view today?
Yes.
Okay. But I did ask you whether you subscribe to the views of Finance Minister Smotrich.
I'm sorry,
Smotrich. This is the Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich and the former National Security Minister Ben-Gvir, who believe that Israel has a biblical right to the entire West Bank. And in that conversation, you told me that, yes, you shared that view. Is that your view today?
Yes.
Okay. But I did ask you whether you subscribe to the views of Finance Minister Smotrich, who
Of who? I'm sorry, finance.
Smotrich, this is the Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich, and the former National Security Minister Ben-Gvir, who believe that
It's just on repeat now.
biblical right to the entire West Bank.
Okay, so basically, they're saying Israel has a biblical right to the West Bank, and she's defending this. So I mean, it's kind of an extraordinary state of affairs. And so these are people. What, Zachary? Is it a case that these are true believers in end times biblical eschatology, or are they just adopting these views because this is what IPAC and the lobby have told them they need to say? Sometimes I don't know, because I never noticed any of these people as being, evangelical Christian Zionists before. But then again, maybe they were selected because of that. Certainly with Pete Hegseth, that's actually the case. He's a Third Temple kind of cultist in that respect. But this extraordinary, this exchange, Zachary.
We have the U.S. ambassador to the UN who believes that in order to determine who has the legitimate right to any piece of land, what we need to do is we need to go back into history. We need to go back 3,300 years ago and determine what group lived there on the land 3,300 years ago. Why 3,300 rather than 4,300 or rather than 2,300? Well, that's because apparently she is a Bible-believing person and believes that God promised the land of Israel to the Israelites, whose offspring are the modern-day Jews. Itself, obviously, a bogus claim that has been debunked by countless historians. We know there were mass conversion events in Jewish history in which, for example, all Ashkenazi Jews are descendants of about 100 people. So leaving aside just the pure insanity of the claim that we need to go back to some random point in history, we're dealing with a person who has no regard for international law, who has no regard for international humanitarian law, which is evident because if she believed in international humanitarian law and international law, she would be citing not the Bible, but she would be citing the UN Partition Plan of 1947. She would be citing the UN Declaration on Human Rights. She would be citing the Rome Statute. She would be citing the Genevan Conventions of 1948. Now, these are the conventions that help us understand who has a right to Israel-Palestine. Who is Israel occupying the West Bank and Gaza? Is Israel imposing an apartheid regime there? Those are the relevant statutes and treaties and documents that you would be referring to if you were representing the United States at the UN. Unfortunately, we have a biblical literalist based on texts written 3,300 years ago, trying to make determinations about who should live in the Holy Land, who has a right to control the West Bank and Gaza. I mean, Patrick, I don't know if you knew this, but I'm actually an Edomite, and I have a right to Jordanian citizenship, and I have a right to extra special privileges in Jordan because my great grandparents from 300 generations ago once lived there, and all the people who live in Jordan today are all illegitimate. I mean, that's literally what she's saying.
So, and it's I think it was it Mike Huckabee? Yeah, Mike Huckabee said live on Fox or one of the news things. He said, "Whoa, Gaza. Oh, we tried a Palestinian state in Gaza, and look how that turned out." He said, like he basically thought that Gaza was a Palestinian state, and then he goes, "For 3,500 years, Israel has had an autonomous, independent homeland in the Middle East for 3,500 years." And I'm just thinking to myself, this is the guy that the President of the United States is sending as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. And I'm like, what planet is he referring to with his geography and his history? Because it's not Earth. It must be some other planet in the solar system. I honestly, I was blown away that somebody who used to be a governor of a U.S. state is that ignorant or would say such craziness. It's considering the sensitivity. They don't really, I don't think, care about the sensitivity of their positions at the moment. It's kind of an intellectual free for all. You have to admit. Go ahead, Zach.
Well, I was gonna bring up a related case of this sort of biblical fantasy, biblical insanity, and that would be the current president of the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, Her name is Julia Sebutinde. Perhaps you are familiar with this woman. She was the only member of the 17 judges on the ICJ who voted down all the provisional measures that the ICJ voted on. That is to say that in the January decision, in which the ICJ said Israel is plausibly carrying out a genocide, there was one dissenting voice, okay, of the 17 judges who she was the only one to reject all the provisional measures. And it turns out she's a diehard a Christian who believes in these biblical fantasies, these eschatological fantasies about the end of days. And I recently just uncovered, this is breaking news, actually, Patrick. But we're going to break right here on your stream.
Okay.
She plagiarized large sections of her dissenting opinion. This
Mm.
is not, this is, I just broke this today on Twitter. If you go into that dissenting opinion, first of all, she has like 750 words on ancient Israel, on biblical Israel. First of all, ask yourself what that has anything to do with international law, what that has anything to do with genocide in the Gaza Strip. Well, the short answer is nothing. But nevertheless, she goes into this diatribe talking about the ancient history of the Jewish people, in which she talks about in 135 CE, Hadrian vengefully erased the Judean presence in the land. And in spite of the Jews, Hadrian replaced the name Judea with Palestinian Syria. She lifts this, she has 3 sentences in which she completely lifts. It's basically a word for word copy paste from a piece published by the Hudson Institute in 2021. And then, to make matters worse, she regurgitates 4 sentences. She cites 4 sentences, which are, again, virtually word-for-word copies from the Jewish Virtual Library, which is itself a propaganda organization. If you scroll down just one more, right there, that tweet. It's all in the open. I mean, she's literally plagiarizing passages about biblical history, about the Roman history of Palestine. She's plagiarizing this history from a 2021 piece published in the Hudson Institute, and then she's plagiarizing the early history of the mandate period, the British mandate period in the 1920s and 30s. She's plagiarizing that history from the Jewish Virtual Library, citing Auni Abdul Hadi, lifting entire passages from the Jewish Virtual Library. So we're talking here about the president of the world's highest court. Okay, this person she wasn't president. After the former president was recently took the position of president of Lebanon. She was basically second in command. She was backup, and then she was appointed effectively acting president of the ICJ on January 14th, so about 2 weeks ago. And so she's leaving aside the insanity of writing biblical history into an opinion about genocide in the Gaza Strip in 2023. She's plagiarizing that history.
This is just complete madness. And yeah, you're right. Nawaf left to lead Lebanon, left clearly a massive vacuum here, professional vacuum, and breaking the president of the International Courts of Justice, Julia Sebutinde, plagiarized sections of her dissenting opinion. You give the reference link there. You can go to Zachary Foster's X feed, and all the links are there. You can click through and see, in which she voted against all provisional measures of South Africa's case of Israel's genocide of the Palestinians. The name Palestine, quote, applied vaguely to a region that for 400 years before World War I was part of the Ottoman Empire, says Sebutinde. So, and she goes on, and it's just like, I think I know kind of what's happening here, Zachary. Not to sound conspiratorial, but this is somebody who has been captured, clearly, because she seems to have abandoned all professionalism or all objectivity. And there were questions about her before. Is she not one of the only ones who voted against the previous motion to advance the case of genocide? Was one of the only dissenters, if I don't recall, a year ago? Is that correct?
That's right. There were 17 judges on the ICJ committee that proffered their opinions on the South Africa case, in which South Africa was charging Israel with the crime of genocide. And there was only one member of the permanent sitting members of that committee who voted against all the measures. That was Julia Sabutunde. And then there was only one member who voted against all the provisions. By the way, and that was, again, Sabutunde. And even the Israeli judge who was appointed by Israel, Aharon Barak, even he voted in favor of one of the provisional measures, which called on Israel to cease genocidal statements, cease the genocidal rhetoric. I mean, even Aharon Barak looked at these statements. There are no innocent in Gaza. We need to, where Netanyahu likens the Palestinian people of Gaza to Amalek, not once, but twice. Amalek being the people the ancient Israelites were commanded to annihilate. Likening all Palestinians in Gaza to human animals. There are literally dozens of genocidal statements cited by that ICG case. It's about 4 or 5 pages of them. And even Aharon Barak, the Israeli judge, said, oh, wow, we need to issue an order to the state of Israel to cease making genocidal statements. And even this judge who we're talking about, Sebutinde, even she voted against that one. So we're talking about someone who's just totally compromised. The Gray Zone recently published a piece in which they've determined she's part of this church in her home country, and one of her pastors, or one of the pastors at the church, is just this raging end of days Christian who just believes that Israel in 1948, it was a miracle by God in which the Jewish people have been reconstituted in the land of Israel in accordance with biblical prophecies, Genesis chapter 12 and 15. And she's part of this church, and presumably has come under the influence of these end of day Christian theologians, who, by the way, are American theologians, who are setting up churches all around Africa, preaching the word of God, claiming Israel is a miracle, is some divine intervention. And she's clearly been influenced by them.
Yeah, so she's from Uganda, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Yeah. So
Right.
American ecumenical, Christian, Pentecostal, Baptist, Protestant denominations and whatnot. This is also, from my research, and it's not conspiratorial, this has also been a very convenient cutout front for the Central Intelligence Agency over the years, as well as the Catholic Church and the Mormon Church, and the list goes on and on. But let me just bring this up because this is just kind of a no-brainer, Zachary, here. Published by Douglas Fife at the Hudson Institute, of all people, an arch neocon, an architect of the Project for the New American Century, who basically authored U.S. foreign policy pretty much till today, for the benefit of Israel. Let's not fool ourselves here. So that's where she's plagiarizing from. So she's clearly been given these references, told what passages to copy and paste, and she did a very poor job of footnoting. Clearly. I mean, so totally unprofessional. She should be disbarred, actually, just for that infraction alone. For somebody in a high legal position, just to be doing plagiarism, it's kind of, that's the kiss of death, professionally, isn't it? You can't recover from that.
Here you are presenting yourself as a legal authority, and you don't even have the honesty to present to cite other people when presenting their work as your own. I mean, these passages are lifted literally word for word. She changes a word here or there, but effectively you're talking, I mean, this is textbook plagiarism. I mean, if you're a professor at a university and you were handed a paper that had this level of plagiarism, it wasn't 1 or 2 or 3 sentences. There's at least 8 sentences that are just lifted whole scale. Just word for word. This is presenting other people's work as your own, is dishonest, and it's disqualifying to even an undergraduate student at the University of Michigan, let alone the world's top court, who's supposed to be adjudicating cases of genocide. I mean, what do you even say to this? This is a total breach of your ethical responsibility and duty as a legal authority and a scholar, and everyone who has any regard for truth or evidence or data or honesty or integrity should call on her to resign immediately.
No, absolutely. It's pretty shocking, but I dare say I'm hardly shocked these days.
And by the
Anyway,
way, Patrick, if I just could say one other thing, I mean,
sure.
leaving aside the plagiarism, leaving aside that she's even talking about biblical history in an opinion about genocide circa 2023, 2024. Let's leave all that aside. The history that she tells, she also regurgitates misinformation and distorts history. And this is, I think, most evident in her discussions of the history of the Zionist movement in Palestine. She says in her legal opinion, she cites that on the eve of Zionist immigration, there were only 250,000 Palestinian Arabs living in Palestine. Okay, so in the 1880s, there were only something like 250,000 Arabs in Palestine. This is just misinformation. Misinformation that is easily debunked by a Wikipedia search, by the way. The most authoritative source on demographic history in Ottoman Palestine is a historian by the name of McCarthy. And he's published a 250-page book just on the demographic history of late Ottoman Palestine, right? And on page 10 of that book, he cites the data. And it's like basically on the eve of Zionist immigration, you're talking about 460,000 Arabs. And by the 1890, you're talking about 500,000, which, by the way, according to almost every historian of Ottoman Palestine I am familiar with, and by the way, that's my specialty. That's a gross understatement because it doesn't account the nomadic populations. It probably doesn't include all women and children. So you're talking about a floor of probably 460,000 people, whereas she's citing and by the way, that figure is itself on Wikipedia, which anyone can look up. She's just making up numbers. She's making up data to help Zionists sleep better at night, right? Because the smaller the Arab population, the less of it an injustice the Zionist movement was, which is somehow, even in the way she frames it, she's essentially implying this is a settler movement and there's this indigenous population. So implicit in her own narration of the history is the point that, you know, Zionism was a settler colonial project. She distorts the number of Palestinians living in the land. She has this whole paragraph in which she tries to claim that Palestinians never called themselves Palestinians. They always called the place, they always saw the Palestine as part of Syria. I addressed this point at great length in my dissertation. But it's not even really relevant here. What is relevant is the fact that she is narrating Zionist propaganda. She is narrating Zionist mythology. She's leaving aside, again, the plagiarism, leaving aside the fact that this history is not relevant to the question at hand, which is Israel committing genocide in Gaza. She's spewing Zionist propaganda and is doing it blatantly and flagrantly, distorting history, getting the facts wrong, plagiarizing at will, all the while completely ignoring the actual question that has been presented to her. And you know, it's just absolutely embarrassing to see this person sitting in the highest position, in the highest court of justice in the world.
No, it almost seems to me, you know, I know how politics goes in clandestine operations, and I'm sure you do as well, Zachary, that the changing of the guard in Lebanon, how things ended up coming out on that story was not by coincidence. So she was engineered into that position. And I think we're talking about manipulation with multiple states at a very high level and a lot of recommendations, leverage, maybe some, not even threats, but maybe promises, or the United States saying, we really like Nawaf. He's top guy at the ICJ, great lawyer, great pedigree. We'd really like to see him. I mean, did Lebanon really need him to be leader? Probably not. He had a great career, you know, fantastic job where he was. I mean, why would you want to go into the maelstrom of Lebanese politics? I wouldn't. And he's doing a perfectly good job, but he was a problem, wasn't he, at the ICJ? So, I mean, that's just me. I hope that's not too conspiratorial.
Well, we've known for more than a decade now that Israel has been meddling in the internal affairs of both the ICJ and the ICC. I mean, this goes back before the current prosecutor, Karim Khan. Before him, Bensouda was the prosecutor of the ICC. And there were attempts this is public, the reporting on this is well known. There were many attempts by the Israeli government to blackmail Bensouda, and then we saw most recently with Karim Khan, Israel tried to muster up this accusation of sexual misconduct, even when we were told about this prosecutor who, by the way, was celebrated by Israel when he was first appointed to the ICC as someone who would clearly not do anything about all of these cases being brought to the ICC by the Palestinian people. He at the time was believed to be this essentially Israel stooge. And even his first visit to Israel after October 7th, he visited Israel. And he was very clearly going to be someone who was going to prosecute Hamas. He was going to take, Sinwar and Mohammed Deif. They were going to be charged with war crimes. But after months and months of relentless aerial bombardment, of hundreds of genocidal statements, of tens of thousands of dead Palestinians later, he just simply couldn't hold back any longer. And so out came the warrants issued for the arrest for Netanyahu and Gallant, obviously together with Sinwar and Deif. And then Israel went on a campaign to blackmail him, to find dirt on him. And at the time, Israel was told, this guy's clean. He's a straight edge guy. He's super clean. You're not going to find anything on him. And they dug around, and it's very, very unclear exactly what is the nature of this allegation, whether it was trumped up, whether someone was paid to make this allegation. And they found some kind of sexual misconduct allegation, again, all with the goal of undermining the arrest warrants and undermining the ICC. But this has been Israel's motto and modus operandi for literally more than a decade now.
Yeah, no, that was pretty to me obvious how that was rolling out, and my disappointment to see Karim Khan in Damascus getting a photo op with the former ISIS head al-Jilani. That's another story. But let's fast forward here, as we just got a couple minutes left, Zachary. I could really go into the hostages or the prisoners of war, the female IDF soldiers that were released recently that were supposed to have been impregnated by Hamas while they were being, raped in captivity, and none of that happened. They came out looking absolutely healthy, in absolute mint condition. But this is where the conversation is advanced to here, Zachary. And I want to get your comment on this, because I think this is a potential huge problem. Now, just to set the scene here, Zachary, the ceasefire in Gaza was basically parallel with an escalation in the West Bank by the Israelis. And the settlers were unleashed on the people, the Palestinians in the West Bank. And so it's like, yeah, we'll give you a ceasefire in Gaza, but basically the West Bank is going to be fair game now. And so that's like, it looks like that's what happened, Zachary. And then we have this: Trump calls for Jordan, Egypt to accept more Palestinian refugees, clean out the whole thing. So he's talking about pushing the Arabs into the peripheral countries. And I think there's actually a danger of this happening with Jordan. And I've been warning about it for like the last 4 or 5 months, that pressure release valve, if that's removed, and people are pushed into Jordan, it's going to create huge instability politically in Jordan, because the royal family is already on tenterhooks there. So, and what would that mean? The U.S. and the British would probably engineer some kind of regime change and change the reality, and then there's going to be a whole world of pain regarding the West Bank. And Israel has already said, and Trump has said, that he believes that's part of Israel, Judea and Samaria, Jordan Valley. What do you make of this? How concerned are you of this development, Zachary?
Where to even begin? Clean out the whole thing because the whole place is filled with dirty Palestinians? What is this even implying about the people living in Gaza, that they're all dirty? Cleaning out, you want to ethnically cleanse them? The headline in every single front paper in the world should be, U.S. president calls for the ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip. That's the headline here. Now, with regard to what pressure Trump can bring to bear on Egypt and Jordan, well, the answer is quite a lot, because Egypt is in a free fall. They've devalued the currency twice in the past 3 or 4 years. The Egyptian people are suffering tremendously. They're desperately in need of World Bank support and IMF support and U.S. support to prop up the currency, to prevent the government from going bankrupt. That's literally what we're talking about. We're talking about a country that cannot pay its bills, and it needs about 3 billion U.S. cents every single year to Egypt. They need that money desperately. And so, Could the United States apply enough pressure on Egypt to open up the border and allow Israel to ethnically cleanse millions of Palestinians? It's definitely a possibility. I wouldn't put it past Trump to use that leverage. We know Trump loves to use leverage. Whenever the United States has financial investments abroad, those are the places Trump loves to apply the most pressure, right? NATO? I mean, he's obsessed with railing on the Europeans to spend more money for NATO. So of course he's gonna apply more pressure on Egypt to open up that border. You can guarantee that. And if Egypt opens up that border, well, I mean, you can expect there to be mass uprisings in Egypt. The Egyptian people are livid. There's very few people on planet Earth that support the Palestinians more than the people of Egypt. The same is true in Jordan, where the vast majority of the people living in Jordan are themselves descendants of Palestinian refugees. We've seen for months and months now, on end, the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan has been providing Israel and the United States with all the support they need. We saw that when Israel attacked Iran twice. Well, guess what airspace they flew over to attack Iran? Well, they used Jordanian airspace. So what has Jordan done to bring about an end to the genocide? Nothing. Literally nothing.
Here's Afshin Rattanzi, one of the great broadcast journalists in the world. He's tweeted here: Donald Trump lays out ethnic cleansing plan for Gaza. I'd like Egypt to take the people. I'd like Jordan to take the people. You're talking about 1.5 million people, and take them all. Just clean the place out, clean the whole thing. Over the centuries, says Trump, it's had many conflicts, many conflicts. And I don't know, something has to happen. It's literally a demolition site. Almost everything is demolished and the people are dying. So, I'd rather get involved with some of the Arab nations to build housing at a different location where maybe they can live in peace for a change, says Donald Trump. So he's like, yeah, Israel has basically turned it into a pile of dust. And because of that, the people need to go to a neighboring Arab country, says Donald Trump. And Afshin Rattanzi replies here: the rest of the world sees that a better plan would be to stop Israel's genocidal colonialism and allow Palestinians to live peacefully on the land that they have lived for generations. That would normally be a reasonable request, Zachary, in a normal situation. But for some reason, at least in Washington, in Tel Aviv, and London, and other places, that's no longer a reasonable request. Now we're talking about forced displacement of whoever is surviving this genocide in Gaza. I can't believe the press have not taken Trump apart for this. But this kind of tells you the atmosphere, Zachary, that we're in right now. I think it's somewhat worrying, to say the least. Go ahead.
Well, Donald Trump has clearly come under the influence of his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, the co-author of Israel's Peace to Prosperity plan back in 2018-2019, which called for $50 billion in Gulf aid to the Palestinians in exchange for permanent apartheid, permanent Israeli domination of Gaza and the West Bank. The same Jared Kushner, the same real estate developer who just a few months before the great financial crisis in 2008 spent $1.8 billion on commercial real estate in Manhattan, the same piece of property that was worth less than half that a few months later. The brilliant Jared Kushner, the brilliant investor who lost literally $1 billion on real estate back in the day, the same brilliant Jared Kushner who needed his father to get into Harvard University. This is the guy that has Trump's ear, and he's the one telling Trump, Gaza's beautiful weather, beautiful beachfront properties. I mean, this is what Trump thinks. This is who's informing him and advising him. People who believe that, Gaza's destroyed. Well, just get the Palestinians out of there so Israel can build beautiful beachfront property. I mean, that's the plan.
And it's opened up this kind of very racist ethnic cleansing discourse that used to kind of be on the fringes, and you'd hear it sort of, comments off to the side with, some neocons and stuff like this, but this is all over the place now. Here's a good example, Zachary. This is from an account called Quantum Flux. Sounds very sophisticated, but let me assure you it's not. And they're saying civilians could be relocated to Egypt and Jordan for humanitarian reasons. Then the cleanup can proceed. The cleanup. Most of them previously had passports from these countries anyway. Jordan was given 77% of the Palestinian mandate after all. That's exactly what you referred to earlier, Zachary. And here's the map. Luckily, there's plenty of land, says Quantum Flux, for the Arabs. There are 57 Islamic countries. So now we're not even talking about Arabs now. It's Muslim. It's Muslims now. So there are 57 Islamic countries, 12,250,000 square miles, 99.7% of the Middle East, 21% of the planet. Why can't the Palestinians just leave the Israeli settlers alone and go find another Muslim country to live in? It's right there, Zachary. This stuff is replete around the punditry, social media. To me, it's pretty disgusting. But this is how the discourse has sunk to this level. To me, is shocking in itself. It's unbelievable. If we applied this same logic to a few other situations I could bring up, I'm sure some of these people would not be happy at all. Go ahead, Zach.
This idea that there's so many Arab and Muslim countries in the world, why can't Palestinians just go to one of them? I mean, for how many decades have we heard this propaganda regurgitated? Propaganda which sees Palestinians as visitors in their own home country, in the country their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents have lived and died in for centuries. I mean, it's just it represents the total dehumanization of an entire population. This idea that they're not Palestinians, they're Arabs, or they're Muslims and Christians. Why don't they just go someplace else? As if they haven't been living in their towns and villages and cities for generations. I mean, there's no people, very few people that I've met anywhere in the world who have as strong a tie to the land, to the springs, to the valleys, to the mountains, to the rivers, as the Palestinian people. I mean, it's a people rooted in land. I mean, on the eve of Zionist immigration, Palestinians were 80% farmers. They were agriculturalists. They tilled the soil. They harvested wheat. They picked olives. They planted grapes and barley and legumes. Palestinians are tied to the land. There's no people on planet Earth more tied to the land than the Palestinians. Why don't they just go somewhere else? I mean, it's just totally racist, bigoted, and ultimately, I think, is one of the reasons why we're here today, is this belief that the Palestinians don't belong in their own home country.
Yeah, here, look at this. So this high level analysis here goes on. The Arab conquest started 1,400 years ago and are still ongoing. Here are just a few of the groups still under threat by the Arab conquest. So we went from Arabs to Muslims, back to Arabs again. And they're saying Christians, Jews under threat from Arabs, Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, Jains, Druze, Zoroastrians, Persians, Assyrians, Armenians, Copts. I mean, you have to be kidding me. And it goes on and on. And so people, new regions under threat, France, UK, Ireland, Germany. But these are the accounts that Elon Musk is boosting. You know, these types of this type of rhetoric. He'll quote tweet it saying, wow, or true, or exactly, or, you know, one of these sort of based one word replies. I mean, the discourse is just plummeting so fast at 16 feet per second.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you want to talk about conquest and empires, you really got to start with the British, because before the British, Jews, Muslims, and Christians in Palestine, they went on picnics together in places like Sheikh Jarrah, where Jewish musicians would play together with Muslim musicians, celebrating Jewish holidays. At the tombstone of Shimon HaTzadik in Sheikh Jarrah, you had Jews, Muslims, and Christians celebrating Ottoman holidays together, celebrating the Ottoman Constitution together. There was you had Jews and Muslims sharing residential courtyards where Jews and Muslims would play in the same backyards, and they would gang up in places like Jerusalem in the Al Wad neighborhood against Jews and Muslims from other courtyards and other neighborhoods. The fault lines weren't even necessarily Jewish, Muslim, Christian, let alone Palestinian Jewish. And this was Ottoman Palestine, a place where religion was not the defining element of who you were. Religion, ethnicity did not define your rights. Only after the British, Only after the British occupied Palestine in 1918, that is when religion, ethnicity became the defining characteristic. That is what defined your rights under British mandatory rule. And I mean, this story plays out pretty much wherever the British and the French and the German and the American imperialists went. Divide and rule, divide and conquer. And you saw that in Palestine as well.
And we're going to wrap it up in a moment, but I think this is quite a significant thing you've shared here on your timeline, Zachary. This is from Basel Adra, and it's a video clip, and it's saying, now 2 days after no other land was nominated for an Oscar, settlers are invading my community here, Massafir, Yatta, burning and breaking homes. I'm honored for the nomination, but we're being erased while Trump lifted settler sanctions in the West Bank. Do people of Hollywood care? Please don't be silent. I'm going to play this clip here just so people get an audio on this.
المستوطنين قاموا بالاعتداء على خربة الطوبة، حرق جب وضرب حجار على المنازل.
So just give us some context on this, Zachary, because it's kind of extraordinary.
Well, Bas al-Adra is a Palestinian from the South Hebron Hills, specifically Masafir Yatta, which is among the dozens villages, towns in the South Hebron Hills where some 1,800 Palestinians live. About 2.5 years ago, the Israeli Supreme Court declared that all 2,000 of those Palestinians are slated for ethnic cleansing, that the Israeli military has a right to go in and ethnically cleanse them. And ever since then, these attacks by these settlers, they of course were long predated this Israeli Supreme Court decision, but have only intensified in the past 2 years, in which Israeli civilians living illegally on occupied Palestinian land, that is on the West Bank, they every day or 2 or 3 enter these villages, Susia, Masafir Yatta, and carry out pogroms. They burn houses down, they burn cars, they attack houses, they kill, they injure, they maim. A Palestinian from Masafir Yatta, which is pictured, which is his story is described at great length in the film that was nominated for the Oscar, No Other Land. He is permanently disabled. He is paralyzed for life because a settler, an Israeli settler, came into the village and shot him. And what repercussions did that Israeli settler face? What was the accountability? Nothing. Israeli settlers, total impunity to injure, to maim, to destroy property, to kill whoever they want. And this is what you're witnessing here, of just these violent Jewish terrorists going on pogroms, destroying Palestinian property.
So they've been basically given the green light by the Israeli government, by the United States, really. This is always a line that U.S. governments have held with regards to settler violence in the West Bank. And it seems to me, Zachary, that this has completely been abandoned now. I think we can safely say.
Well, there were sanctions that were placed on a handful of Israeli settlers in the last year or two of the Biden administration. What did Trump do in week 1 of his presidency? He lifted those sanctions. He's very, very clear about what he thinks about the West Bank. The West Bank belongs to Israel. He greenlit annexation of the West Bank back in 2018. I mean, it is Trump v1.
Yep.
He believes the West Bank belongs to Israel. All of his advisors, all the ambassador to Israel, his secretary of state, all the people advising him on Israel-Palestine are all telling him the West Bank is part of Israel. It's Judea and Samaria. It's the ancient homeland of the Jewish people. And so anything that those Israeli settlers do, be it carrying out violent pogroms in the South Hebron Hills, or Hawara, or Ain al-Ahmar, or Susia, or Humsa in the north, or in Sabastia, it literally doesn't matter where you go in the West Bank. There are violent Jewish terrorists rampaging around, not on a weekly basis as it was before October 7th, but now it's on a daily basis, where they're destroying Palestinian property, where they're harassing Palestinians, intimidating them, entering their homes. I saw this myself. I witnessed this with my own 2 eyes in Humsa in the north. There's an Israeli settler. His name is Moshe. Every day, he enters the Palestinian town of Humsa, walks into the homes of the Palestinians living there, and takes his morning coffee in their living room. just to intimidate them and harass them. I mean, this is the lives of millions of Palestinians in the West Bank today.
And they can't touch him. They can't really do anything for fear of having the IDF come down on them heavy and ruin their lives. Maybe get them evicted from their home. Who knows? It becomes a security, a security issue that needs to be commandeered or whatnot.
If you're a Palestinian and you put one hand on a settler who's in your region illegally, who's in your home, drinking his morning coffee in your private property, if you put one hand on him, you will be arrested. He will call the Israeli military. They will come and arrest you. You will be imprisoned for having committed a crime in the future. It's known as administrative detention, in which you're detained, imprisoned indefinitely. You can't present a legal defense because you haven't committed a crime. You've committed a future crime, and the evidence for the future crime that you've committed is secret, so you can't even present a legal defense. And your detention is renewable indefinitely. And you've had some some Palestinian prisoners who have been in and out of Israeli prisons for literally decades.
Mm-hmm.
Khalida Jarrar is one of them, who just was released in the first batch of Palestinian prisoners. She spent the better part of a decade sitting in Israeli prison on charges of administrative detention, meaning on no charges at all. She just was taken hostage and she was just released. And there's thousands more prisoners just like her. And that's what would happen if you were a Palestinian and you put one hand on an Israeli settler who's terrorizing you.
Yeah, that's day-to-day life here. And just before we break up, and I appreciate your time, Zachary, there's so much to cover, but this is just such a striking image, which you have also shared on your timeline here. Images emerging from Gaza are haunting. This is a site where Palestinian captives were forced to strip. Their clothes were left behind among the ruins as a reminder of what Israeli soldiers did. I mean, look at this. This is just unbelievable. Anyway, we'll see if we can listen to some of the audio here. Hold on.
المناطق في شمال قطاع غزة، وكانت في المنطقة هاي بالتحديد تجمعهم أمام هاي الصالة وتدخلهم وتطلع منهم أعداد معينة ومن ثم تقوم بتفتيشهم.
I mean, Zachary, this is just, I mean, if you ever need an image to define this horror, this is one of them.
Patrick, you know what that image reminds me of? And it's just the first thing that comes to mind when I see images of hundreds of people's clothes just all bundled together. It reminds me of going to Auschwitz. It reminds me of the room in Dachau where the clothes of the Jews who were put in gas chambers and exterminated remain. Those Palestinians whose clothes is just scattered about, the hundreds of Palestinians, guess where they are? They're in Israeli torture dungeons right now. What crime have they committed? Well, they were born Palestinian in the Gaza Strip. That's the crime that they committed. They were stripped naked, they were humiliated, and they were brought into Israeli torture dungeons where not one or two or three, but dozens of Palestinians have mysteriously died in the past year and a half. We've had, I believe it's in the 30s now, of Palestinians who just, their bodies are literally emptied out in Gaza. What does Israel do after it kills a Palestinian prisoner? It puts it in a dump truck and takes it to the border with Gaza and just dumps the body there. And that's what we're witnessing. Civilians, we had 1,000 Palestinians from Gaza released in the first phase of this prisoner swap and ceasefire deal. There were 1,000 Palestinians who, according to Israel, did not commit any crime associated with October 7th. They were just rounded up just because they're a Palestinian man, the war on men, the war on Palestinian men. They were rounded up, brought into a torture dungeon, deprived of food, deprived of water, given 1 minute to take a shower every week, held 24/7 in handcuffs, both handcuffs around the hands and around the feet, forced to remain in very uncomfortable positions. We've had dozens of cases where Palestinian prisoners had to have their limbs amputated because of the treatment that they suffered in Israel's torture dungeons. So it's just absolutely horrific seeing those photos, especially photos that remind us of some of the most horrific images and scenes in all of human history.
Yeah. I mean, we're living that moment in history here, and it's pretty incredible. The Israelis are absolutely reeling over Hamas's show of force. We'll put some of that, some images there. I mean, they just beside themselves because Netanyahu has been saying Hamas has been eliminated for so long. This is an Israeli propaganda account here on X, but Hamas is out in force, Zachary, and from reports, even Tony Blinken himself admits they've replenished their ranks. So one has to ask, from a military point of view, what was the last 15 months about for Israel? Well, it wasn't, I don't think, about anything but killing Palestinians, quite frankly. But there's Hamas. They're still there. They're not going anywhere, are they, Zachary?
Well, if there's anything we can say for certain about the first 15 and a half months of Israel's genocide and war in the Gaza Strip, it's that they have turned Hamas into a heroic organization among the people of Gaza. It's never been easier for Hamas to recruit fighters than it is today. I mean, they're being greeted as heroes welcome on the streets of the Gaza Strip. Every single 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid, every 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid today growing up in the Gaza Strip wants to be a Hamas fighter. Well, obviously they want to be Hamas fighters because for 15 and a half months, they've seen their families ripped apart. They've seen their brothers and sisters shredded into a million pieces. And then at the same time, they see videos of fighters wearing, in sandals and jeans, firing homemade rockets that they engineered themselves in tunnels at those Israeli soldiers carrying out the genocide. But who do you think they're rooting for when they see those missiles fired at Israeli tanks and Israeli armored personnel carriers and Israeli bulldozers and Israeli quadcopters? Who are they rooting for? Who do they see as the heroes? Israel has made Hamas. I mean, by the way, on the eve of October 7th, there was a lot of criticism of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. People were unhappy about many policies. They were unhappy about Hamas's imposition on Gaza's economy. You had Hamas trying to start its own farms, grow its own tomatoes and strawberries. Hamas was heavy-handed in the economy. They were imposing taxes on street vendors and taxi cab drivers. Now, these people are heroes. I mean, Israel has turned an organization that was probably had the support of less than half of the Palestinian people of Gaza into a heroic organization standing up to the most powerful military in the world, the United States.
Yeah, that's how it's going to be written. That's the reality. That's the real narrative. That's the real takeaway of this situation. Dr. Zachary Foster, I really appreciate you joining us. Palestine Nexus is the name of your publication, and just give a shout out where people can find your work, Zachary. I'll try to bring your account up on screen here, but direct people to where they can get involved in what you're doing.
You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter. My handle is _Zach Foster. You can also subscribe to my newsletter, which you can find at PalestineNexus.com. And you can also check out some of the courses over at PalestineNexus.com as well. We have a course on Zionism, a history of Zionism, as well as a course on the Palestine question, a history of the Israel-Palestine question. You can find all that on PalestineNexus.com.
Yeah. I know some people that subscribe to your course as well, and incredibly informative. And this is the sort of level and depth of information and historical background context that you need, because this is very complicated when you engage in debates on this subject. It's just, mired in minutia. And so you need to be equipped to be able to navigate this. And I think that's one of the public services that Dr. Zachary Foster is performing at this very important time in history. Zach, appreciate you joining us on the Sunday Wire this week.
Thanks so much for having me, Patrick.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. That is Dr. Zachary Foster. Look, we're going to take a break right now and try to see if we can catch up with our cohort on the other side from ACR, Hesher also Ruckus as well. We got a few other things to cover. Some incredible things going on in the world, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to do our best to walk you through there. In the meantime, we're going to hear a tune from our friends at Red Rumble, amazing band. This is their recent video, Turned to Dust. We'll see you in a few moments. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
For in the final analysis, we all inhabit this small planet, and we are all mortal.
Lately I've been watching the world gone mad. Brothers and sisters full to take a stand, to hate their fellow man, another man. Divide and conquer is the acronym plan. Distract the people, control the story. Don't believe your lying eyes, you know me. Stay in power, no matter what. Play with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye and gather your trust. Pushing us to turn to good. Corruption and lies. Truth is the crime, will turn to dust. Well-designed misery to keep you on edge, make you believe anything anyone says. Keep it left or right, not top to bottom. Accuse the victim, can't you see we got 'em? Stay in power, no matter what. Play with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye and gather your trust. Pushing us to turn to dust. We've captured rights. Feudal time will turn to dust. Industrialized brutality, commercialized cruelty. People as commodity, cheer on war and atrocity. No accountability, perpetual impunity. Always have an enemy to hell with all humanity. Stay in power, no matter what. Play with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye and gather your trust. Pushing us to turn to dust. Stay in power, cash in the stars. Play with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye and join the cause. Pushing us to turn to dust. An empire of lies, history rhymes will turn to dust. Digital inmates, scored on every move. Nowhere to hide, nothing to hold on to. Turn to dust, as we turn to dust, as we turn to dust.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Sunday Wire. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. We're streaming out live on the Alternate Current Radio Network, also at 21stcenturywire.com, X. We may be also streaming out on Rumble, hopefully, BitChute, and of course, YouTube, as usual, and also on our other X account at 21stcenturywire.com. And what an amazing segment. You know, there's so many other things I wanted to ask Dr. Zachary Foster during that segment, but we just didn't have the time. So, we managed to squeeze quite a lot into an hour. Really, that was only scheduled, that segment, for about 40 minutes. Zachary gave us an extra 20, 25 minutes, which we really appreciate. He is working around the clock, very hardworking scholar, researcher. He's doing so much on this issue, and what he's providing in terms of a public resource. That's why you want to follow Zachary Foster on X, because his feed is, in terms of quality of information, relevancy, it's second to none. He is really doing incredible work. And I would also recommend, if you really wanted to get au fait on these issues, and you've heard him talk and you know how incredibly well informed he is, consider taking one of his courses, his online courses, because it's top quality. Himself, Princeton alumni, PhD in history. I mean, he's just incredibly well qualified. What a brilliant resource for all of us anyway. But I want to bring the team back on from ACR. We've got the crew just off to the side on stage. Before we do that, I want to give a big shout out here. Our winter fundraising drive is on at 21st Century Wire. Listen, folks, this is a lot of free content, which we provide. And we made a decision a long time ago that we want most of our content to be free. We do have some members content, some paid content, which we do put up periodically, but most of this is free. So if you like what we do and you want us to keep doing this and spread the word, plus all of our social media accounts, which we're working full time on, 21st Century Wire, we have independent journalists who work for us, doing some fantastic pieces and some really groundbreaking work on a number of key subjects every day. There's content at 21st Century Wire, plus our podcasts, plus the Sunday Wire as well. So if you like what we do and you want to support us, we really need your help. We take cryptocurrency, credit card, PayPal, donations, any amount, or subscribe and become a member monthly at 21wire.tv. Very inexpensive, but you'd be helping us load. So I know some of you guys love this program. You like what we do and the way that we cover the issues. If you do, really, we need your help. This is the time of year where we raise the money to fund the next 12 months of the operation. So we are a listener and viewer funded, audience funded independent media platform, been going since 2009, late 2009. So we've been around for a while, and we're going to stay doing what we're doing, and we're getting better at it, as you can see from a lot of the content output of last year. And we have a lot more we're going to be adding to our repertoire, try to improve it a little bit each year. And I think we got a big leap forward in 2025. How big that leap is depends on you. So you guys need your help, especially our loyal listeners. You guys have come through in the clutch for us before. We really need your help. But thank you for your support. Now I want to bring on to the stage our other members of the crew at Alternate Current Radio. We've got Bryan McClain, a.k.a. Hesher, host of The Boiler Room on ACR, and also Adam Clark, also known as Ruckus, host of The Daily Ruckus, which is also a great podcast on Alternate Current Radio. We'll also put those graphics up here. Hesher, when is The Boiler Room broadcast? How can people watch you?
We go live Thursday nights, usually between 9 and 10 p.m. Eastern time. And we would love to have you over there with us for those live streams. If you're new to what we're doing over here, we'd love to see you in the various chats. We're much like this program. We broadcast live on YouTube, X, Rumble, Rockfin, and we're currently shopping for a new audio-only platform. Looks like that's probably going to end up being Podbean once we're ready to make that jump. Little bit of a challenge there because we have literally thousands, maybe tens of thousands of hours of content on our old audio provider. So we're looking at moving all that stuff over and reigniting that. But yes, Boiler Room Thursday nights right here at alternatecurrentradio.com and all our video streaming platforms.
Well, maybe our friend Larry Ellison can help you migrate that content over, Hesher. Doing some big back-end databases there from the CIA. Adam Ruckus Clark, host of the Daily Ruckus. Where can people find your incredible podcast, Ruckus?
Well, right at alternatecurrentradio.com is the best place, I suppose. But I understand something I've learned across recently in the past couple of years is people get like addicted to one platform. So they like to use Rumble. They're only on Rumble. Well, the good news is just do a search. There's only one Daily Ruckus. I promise you, you're going to find it. So search for the Daily Ruckus there. You won't find me on YouTube. You will find me on X. So please do make sure to follow my account, which is AC_WordSlinger. Or of course, just, find Patrick's feed. He reposts me frequently. Thanks for that, Patrick, by the way. Yeah, and I post my actual episodes. You can just watch them right there on X. You can listen to the audio only version still on Spreaker. And they are available, well, whenever I can get them done, basically. And then whenever between mine and Hesher's computers cooperating and talking back and forth to each other. Sometimes it's 2 o'clock in the morning. It just really depends. So make sure that you just, of course, check the website, because as soon as they're available, I make a post and you can find it. Watch it right there. You can skip all the ads because we embed the video right there from Rumble, I believe, currently. So that's where you can find it. And then as soon as I figure everything out and get the all my I's dotted and my T's crossed, it will be a Monday through Friday type program. I'll probably skip Thursdays because I'm always on the boiler room. So what I ultimately plan to do is Monday through Wednesday kind of thing, maybe even starting on Sunday, we'll see, and then do something special on Friday. And then also maybe once a month, do a live version of the Daily Ruckus on my own Rumble channel and X feeds and stuff. So that could be interesting. But again, alternatecurrentradio.com is your best bet, folks.
Yep, rocking the OBS as well. Great visuals. That's one of the things that Ruckus is known for, as is the Alternate Current Radio Network. Great creative visuals, great vibe, great community. You guys have built an amazing community there of really amazing content creators and people who enjoy great content and great political discussions, which you've done for so long and which we aim to do here on this platform. So, guys, what an incredible segment with Dr. Zachary Foster. I mean, he's very passionate about this issue, and we could have gone into so many incredible, I mean, there's just so much. It's so hard to, I mean, unless we're doing a daily show and even just focusing on the amount of stuff that's coming out, so many eyes and ears on the ground, so much going on social media, just the sheer amount of content. It's just a complete blitzkrieg of information right now. Pick your topic, and you've got basically 100 different angles about everything. And this particular issue, I mean, we're trying to keep up with it. Got kind of sidetracked with Syria, then that whole fiasco just before Christmas, and watching that country collapse with Al Qaeda coming into power there. And it kind of gave us a breather of sorts from what was going on in Gaza. And now with Trump coming in, another chapter in this story. So we'll see. But yeah, if you have any comments on Trump, Middle East, are you guys holding out hope for here? I don't know if you listened to that segment, or do you think we got problems that are baked into the equation? What do you think? Hesher, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely got some problems baked in there. Dr. Foster mentioned Trump's comments. He made those comments probably in more than one place, but I saw him express those doubts when he was signing executive orders. He says it's a complex, it's very complex. So I can just kind of see, in his face and in his words that this may not be totally up to him. And of course, they released a lot, a whole nother batch of U.S. military weapons, missiles, bombs, etc., which, says a lot considering there's a 90-day hold on foreign aid right now. I don't know if that's a holdover from previous foreign aid. They have some excuse for that or what, but ultimately, I think we can basically just look at the track record, and over 1,000 violations, 100% violation rate by Israel when it comes to this topic. So, we can hope for an end to this ethnic cleansing, but that's about all we can do. And that's, I'm going to stand by and I'm going to hope, but it feels somewhat futile when I look in the rearview mirror at their follow-through rate.
Yeah, Ruckus, I think you'll appreciate the black comedy at play here. So these three, not really hostages, I'd call them POWs because they're three female IDF soldiers that were kind of portrayed in the media over the last year as being these kind of vulnerable young teenagers on a kind of Israeli kibbutzim, and they were IDF soldiers, and so they're POWs. They've been released here, three of them in this case. And here they are in, I believe this is the car journey back. And if we listen closely, looking very healthy, extremely well fed. As you can see, that one there, she's not short of any calories, and just is making a factual comment there. But here they are, and basically, this is quite extraordinary. Speaking Arabic, they're speaking Arabic after they've been released. So this is kind of raising my eyebrows. Let's see if we can get some audio here.
السلام عليكم مرحبا. شكرا لكتابك السام على كل المعاملة الكويسة. شكرا للأكل والشرب والملابس. شكرا للشباب اللي كانوا يحفظوا علينا ودير بالو علينا من كاسف. وإن شاء الله يكون الكل يوم سعيد وأحسن يوم وكلنا نكون بخير. يوم 25/1/25. السلام عليكم مرحبا. شكرا لكتابك السام.
So, guys, I don't know. I like the lanyards, the Hamas lanyards. That apparently the Israelis were outraged that they had to wear this Hamas necklace, as they called it. But these are sort of like conference lanyards there by Hamas. I mean, it's kind of hilarious on one level because the narrative, guys, was that these girls were being repeatedly raped by Hamas. And so one of them was used as kind of the poster, victim with the bloody trousers and this and that. And it turned out that was a complete hoax on October 7th. There she is, or in the other one, in perfectly good health. So they're being well treated, and they seem to be very happy. They don't look incredibly traumatized. So this kind of destroys, Ruckus, what do you think? It kind of destroys the narrative that the West and Israel has been trying to portray about these savage Palestinians. Your thoughts?
Yeah, how and why are we seeing this? That's what I'm confused here, because you would think that this sort of thing would be poof, gone, disappeared. We do live in the age of deep fakes, or is anyone coming out claiming, questioning the validity of this? Are they saying this is accurate, that they're really speaking? Clearly, they're speaking Arabic, but and the interpretation, everybody's vetted this and everything. So what is going on? How did Israel allow this to happen? Because this destroys, this one video destroys. How long have we been into this brief conflict now?
15 months. 15 months.
I mean, like poof out the window, right? Like, why isn't there more? I don't know. Is it because they can't call attention to it because then more people understand? I mean, is this Stockholm syndrome? There you go. They're going to come out and say, well, clearly this is a clear sign of what's known as Stockholm syndrome. Is that what they're going to say? It's very, very confusing, very odd, very strange.
It is strange. It's surreal, actually. But this kind of like this is the reality of the situation. So on one hand, with the Israelis, we have reports of Palestinian prisoners being raped, and then the Israelis are protesting because they don't want the people raping the Palestinian prisoners to be prosecuted. So they had these right to rape protests in Israel, which was just bizarre. This is like Black Mirror sort of stuff. And then we have the flip side of that, which is this. So it's incredible. We are so propagandized on this story in the public, and this isn't the first one of these where the female captors have come out and they're almost like thanking their captives, female prisoners or hostages, thanking their captors as they're being released, giving pretty conciliatory accounts to the Israeli media. So I mean, this doesn't surprise me at all, actually. I'm not shocked at all by this, because myself, having been in the region, spent long periods of time there with people in the region, Palestinians, Lebanese, Syrians, Iraqis, I kind of know what they're like, and this doesn't surprise me at all that they're coming out speaking fluent Arabic with big smiles on their face, and they probably forged deep bonding relationships while they were there. I'm sure the hospitality was incredible, and that just kind of destroys a lot of the propaganda that you're dealing with savages. Hamas, they must be savages. They're all terrorists. People in Gaza, just bloodthirsty barbarians. That's how it's been depicted in the West, but it's not the case, clearly. But this is just unbelievable. I can't.
There's another alternative. It could be an unknown military tactic, because we're not necessarily 100% privy to the way Hamas uses this concept of human shields. So maybe this is part of the military tactic, is you have to make sure that your human shields are fit and healthy and happy. Maybe that's how it works. I don't know.
It's a double reverse psyop. Could be. or triple reverse. Triple reverse. Oh my gosh, guys. So anyway, as if that couldn't get any weirder. But anyway, we'll no doubt be covering that. We couldn't. Our guest Leila Haitoum, who's an amazing journalist based in Beirut. You guys have probably seen her on TNT in the past. She couldn't make it. We had connection issues, so we'll try to do something with her. She was kind of down in South Lebanon, or she's kind of working, doing journalism in the field. So the connection was a little bit dicey. We'll hopefully be able to get her in Beirut or something like that in the coming weeks. But it's a big shame, because she had so much to share with us. She's such an amazing commentator. But that's how it goes sometimes when trying to connect people on the ground. So guys, where are we with Trump 2.0? I want to get your thoughts on Project Stargate, and our friend Sean Ryan from the Sean Ryan Show dropped another bomb last week. We were going to talk about this last Sunday, but the show got canceled. Does anybody want to tackle that one?
I'm down. Can you remind me what it was? It's been a bit now. I remember just watching a short and sending it to you and just doing a face palm and going, "Oh my God, here he goes again, doubling down."
It was another CIA operative guest or something saying that Al-Qaeda started the LA wildfires.
Oh yes, there you go. No wonder I ejected that from my brain. How ridiculous. Yeah, that Sean Ryan continues to serve up the latest in CIA propaganda. I guess clearly the CIA noted that people weren't buying the LA fires narrative. They weren't buying the climate change narrative surrounding that. Many people were upset that Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, and their whole crew of wonderful people going around blaming all of humanity, eating hamburgers and driving cars for the atrocious mess there, and then Donald Trump flies in. This was glorious. Donald Trump flies in, does the mean grip, like push and pull handshake on Gavin there. Gavin tried to clinch down on it, and Donald just starts, jerking it back and forth, and there we go, and then he sits down with Karen Bass and other members of LA City Council representatives, state representatives, and just lays it on them, lays like an hour of him just clowning them, sitting right next to them, and them sitting there having to eat humble pie and pretend as though, no, we're not going to make the people of the Pacific Palisades wait 18 months for a permit to go in and see if they can find their safe. Good luck. People from South Central already came up and looted your safe. If it survived, it's gone. And Karen Bass shrivels down into this little golem-like size and says, "Oh, it'll probably be a week. We just want to make sure you're safe." And Trump's sitting there with Melania, just like, "A week? This guy's sitting here. He's ready to get out there and have a dumpster delivered and clean that stuff up tonight. A week seems like a long time, And I found all that to be wonderful. I like that he went to South Carolina. I like that he went to LA. I hope he goes to Lahaina next and gives the mayor over there a similar treatment. But you know, that's all like the PR end. You know, I want to see some answers about how these things actually started. And back to Sean Ryan, Al-Qaeda coming across the southern border via the Darien Gap is not the answer that I don't think anyone is looking for, except maybe your fanboys out there.
Oh, don't you wait. I found it. I've got the offending article here. So again, Melissa Rogers saying, holy crap. There were plans recovered from Al-Qaeda with a proposed strategy to attack America using wildfires, says Tim Sheehy on the Sean Ryan show. This is what I said when the LA Palisade fires started. And so this is what the chattering QAnon classes are saying online. And we'll play this clip here, get your guys' reaction for this. A pretty unbelievable. I mean, as theories go, it's pretty far-fetched, but just so convenient, the timing. Of course, we have intel that was recovered from a safe house in, you know, whatever, you know, some place in Syria or something, whatever. Here we go. Listen to this.
But there were plans recovered from Al-Qaeda that had a proposed plan to attack America with wildfire. Because anyone who's been to the Western U.S. spent time on it, but there were plans.
What do you guys make of that? I mean, come on. What are we doing here?
Why
any terrorist with half a brain would have that plan, and they would also have one for the water or any sort of thing that's going to destroy infrastructure. I mean, it's like basic 101 stuff here. I'm not impressed.
Did Al-Qaeda infiltrate the California environmental groups? Did Al-Qaeda empty out the reservoirs for the smelt fish? Did Al-Qaeda sell off all the water to almond factories and to Alhambra and Nestle? Did Al-Qaeda do all these things? Did Al-Qaeda infiltrate the city council in LA? You know, there's so many factors. Next, Sean Ryan, what's next? Are you going to have someone come out and tell us that Al-Qaeda has directed energy weapons mounted on satellites or global hawk predators or something like that?
No, Toyota trucks, you know, like a whole convoy of Toyota trucks coming over the hill at Bakersfield with directed energy weapons ready to sort of start massive forest fires there. I mean, come on. I've got my buddies in Spec Ops, Signet, Intelligence, and a Navy SEAL buddy of mine called me and he was like, man, here, I'll show you. I got the WhatsApp conversation here.
Literally shaking.
I was literally shaking, man. And it's, man, I'm serious. Really.
How long is this guy's program, this podcast that he does, Sean Ryan?
He is, I guess, the number one up there with Joe Rogan and the rest of them. I mean,
but how long are these episodes usually?
They're generally
a 10-second clip.
They're generally a 2-hour affair.
Okay. See, I look at these types of things. I'm not going to spend 2 hours listening to the whole thing, but I'd be willing to bet that was such a small, tiny part, and that the vast majority of it wasn't really about that kind of thing. It's more the fault of like that X account there, whatever her name was, doing the thing that they love to do on X, and they take that 10-second clip and blow it up into a narrative that gets spread like wildfire. Speaking of wildfire.
Yeah, here we go, you guys. You know, the Darien Gap, of course, the source of everything. So it's like, if we can connect it to Afghanistan, even better. You know, we left all that kit in Afghanistan, and you know, those weapons are turning up in the Darien Gap. My buddies are all talking about this in the Spec Ops community. Just look at this here. I mean, it's absolutely like they're coming to your town. So you guys better button up your schools. And they're just not doing enough to protect you. And thank you to my sponsor there at Whatever Vigilance. I mean, there's also the product sales on this. It's just too much. It's just all too spooky. This is the problem. I mean, it's just clearly if even it's not intended to be a psyop, it's a walking and talking, breathing psyop, even if it wasn't intentionally so. If they're trying to produce content that's like insider intel, war on the terrorist threat, and it's red level, code red, threat level matrix, counter-terrorist, my CT buddies. I mean, Sarah Adams has been raked through the coals. That's one of his favorite guests. CIA targeter. What the hell is a CIA targeter? I've never heard of that job title before. I saw her on the program. And now the California fires. And then there's this guy too. I love this guy. I think this is Guido. This is literally the name is Guido. He's like their special source,
according to them.
Or something.
Where you are, this is
some
a
Afghan whistleblower guy
unbelievers.
Who's got
They
like
want
an
to
accent
purify
like
this.
Cheech and Chong.
You are the
Clearly,
end goal. I am the end
Chicano.
goal.
Definitely not Afghan.
This is the end goal.
So he's got the
And
Pashtuni hat
Al-Qaeda's
on. That
goal,
is the goat
Taliban's
herder
goal.
hat.
They're the
from
same.
Afghanistan. But the
It
accent
never stops.
I'll play you guys.
Are you familiar with Al-Qaeda's goal list, ISIS's goal list? What is it? You are an unbeliever, according to them. Where you are, this is a camp of the unbelievers. They want to purify this. You are the end goal. I am the end goal. This is the end goal. And Al-Qaeda's goal, Taliban's goal, they're the same. It never stops.
I had enough of this in 2014. Guys, I don't know about you, but did you get enough? Is that not a Chicano Cheech and Chong accent? Is that not Mexican?
It sure sounds like it. And of course, this is I have not watched this entire episode, but all the short clips I've seen, this is an anonymous guest. This is an anonymous source. It could be Jim Carrey for all we know. It could be Sacha Baron Cohen. It could be the guy that wears the rubber Joe Biden mask. I mean, we could just come up with any name, any face, any purpose.
It could be Randy Quaid for all we know.
Yeah, paying his penance to come back to Hollywood, perhaps. I mean, geez.
I mean, look at the visuals. This is just so like 9/11, post 9/11.
Yeah, who filmed
flag
that?
burning's nice.
Yeah, the flag burning. Muslims on the tear, and American flag in the background. Don't question my patriotism, even if the stories are totally outlandish and fear mongering.
All wearing M81 woodland camouflage in some of those shots. Like what modern desert army would be wearing M81 woodland camo in these modern times? I'm sorry to do military nerding here, but come on.
Yeah, well, you just don't know enough about the threat.
I'm not a CT bro.
You have not seen the classified briefings, Hesher.
It's Adobe stock footage.
My buddies have, and it's serious. It's worse than you think. It's 10 times worse. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Just making light of it over here. That's all I'm doing. Is you're not allowed to ask questions. This whole we've seen these talking points over and over and over again for 20 some years now. And we've seen
that about 20, yeah,
right, like about the length of the Afghan war, or little pretty much back to 9/11, and it's like they used to be pushed on us by the mass media cartels. They were the ones that would launder this information to us, these talking points, these images, these concepts. And then it became more of an internet thing, right? Like in the early Euboric alternative media. And I gotta say, whoever's in charge of these programs, these PR media programs, they've really struck, like it's as brilliant as Elon Musk's rebranding for the CIA propagandists to rebrand their delivery system through Green Berets and Spec Op guys and all this stuff. It's so much more viral. It's so much more believable to certain aspects of certain populations here in the United States. It seems to come with more authority. And for the people that watch Sean Ryan's show all the time, there's a lot of interesting stuff in between the propaganda stuff like that. You know, I think I've mentioned this before, but you can see a 95-year-old World War II veteran on there, you know, or the last living soldier that was at Iwo Jima on there. You know what I mean? There are conversations on there that are intriguing, heartwarming, make you think good thoughts about the military, because there are good thoughts to be had about our veterans and our military. And a lot of people have been profoundly affected by the horrors that they've seen, the things that they've been through. And there's just a built-in automatic level of respect for the host. And it's like, you know, I saw Joe Rogan saying this yesterday. You know, I'll paraphrase, but basically, like, you know, when you have enough eyeballs on you, and people spend 3 hours a day with you, or, you know, 15 hours a week, or whatever you know, Sean Ryan's, you know, output schedule is. For Joe, it's 4 days a week, 3 hours, you know, people get the impression that they know you, and it's kind of true. I think, you know, all three of us can relate to that in a way. We've met people and have people that watch and listen to us every time we go on, and we appreciate you. And you do know us in a way that is hard to fathom when you're on this end of the camera and the microphone. So there tends to be this inherent, like, I know that person's not a bad person. I spend a lot of time watching their content, and, you know, Sean Ryan has achieved that. And unfortunately, you know, this stuff is peppered in between those sort of broadcasts where, you know, you can relate with him, and you don't, and a casual viewer or someone who has that mindset, they're not going to question him. They're not going to question his motives, his intent. They're not thinking about who his producer is, who his producer's talking to. You know, there's a lot of inroads here that have made this sort of rebranding of delivery of CIA geopolitical propaganda to be something that is much more palpable, much more easily accepted by the American people, especially now that podcasts and live streams rule the airwaves. Sorry, CNN. Basil just told us last night that you had to fire yet another 100 people. So CNN could literally close down. And I don't think that the CIA would lament whatsoever, because they know that the most eyeballs are watching podcasts and live streams instead of CNN anyway. So, and arguably CNN's been dead for this sort of propaganda for a long time, because they leaned so hard into the culture wars. You know, that was
because we destroyed it so thoroughly over the last 10 years. But this is just pure propaganda. I mean, I'm sorry. We've been around the block long enough and enough times to see this. Just the imagery and what's being conveyed is really, I mean, I'm just looking at people's reactions on social media to this, guys, and some people are like traumatized by these reports. They're really scared that, you know, there's jihadis in their local town in, you know, Nebraska or Idaho, and they're going to basically set the forests on fire and stuff like that. So, I mean, I listened to his space, and even that Afghani Cheech and Chong guy was there, and it was just a joke. So, I mean, I have a hard time taking it seriously. But it's half of it's entertainment, guys. I mean, there's just a lot of this it's just like it's propaganda mixed with entertainment, mixed with kind of consumable media, you know, subtle messaging, then some a little bit direct messaging. But it does worry us, because when you see, and what my problem is how come Sean Ryan's not doing an expose on US backed HTS taking over Damascus and creating an Islamic State? We've been funding them, training them, arming them for like a decade in Idlib and in Turkey under the auspices of NATO. I mean, do we not have any responsibility for that? Him as a Navy SEAL with all his inside connections, why don't you do an expose on that? That's like kind of long overdue, but you don't see that level of depth. In other words, nothing that challenges the state too much. And maybe that's just because, he'll lose access to what he believes is high value guests and so forth if he does real journalism, basically, because this is not journalism. I don't know what to call it, but I'm just going to call it propaganda.
Yeah.
He's just a useful tool because he's just riding the grift gravy train, So does he look concerned, folks? If you were one of those people who are like absolutely frightened and sucking your thumb in the corner, like, good old fashioned Alex Jones live streams used to do for me. True story. So I had to quit that stuff back in the day. Yeah, he doesn't look like he's sweating it. He's just like, oh, that's cool. He's like, and everybody else is like, running around, and the office is on fire, and they're pulling out their hair, and they're pulling their kids out of school and building an underground shelter. I don't know what they're doing. But yeah, he doesn't look concerned. And this just looks like stock footage to me. Like you pointed out, the camo doesn't match. None of this makes any sense. And then to finish it up with the flag on fire was very interesting, because I know there's a lot of talk about how Trump wants to make that illegal, even though that would be unconstitutional. Just saying.
Yeah, protected speech. That's one of the executive orders. No government involvement in censorship and stuff like that. But at the same time, the anti-Semitism bill still stands. The one that Trump put through in 2019, which Biden basically kept re-upped, that's still on the books. And that's kind of like sitting there latent, waiting to be enforced. Some universities have implemented this, Harvard most recently. So that's interesting. All these things will get challenged in the courts. If they get to Supreme Court level, it's obvious the Supreme Court can't mess with the First Amendment. It's been tested so many times in different cases that if any of these cases make it up to that level, they're going to get defeated. The problem is that it takes time to work through the system. So, well, are we going to get a major judgment or major lawsuits with big tech, with the censorship that they've done, denying people, colluding with government to deny people their right to speech, their right to publish, their right to have a media presence? Because that happened in a big way. Or is all sins been absolved now that Mark Zuckerberg has a front row seat with the tech bros? And so, and all the rest of them, is that no longer an issue we have to litigate? Because that went on for a very long time. We're talking years.
Yeah.
Might still be going on, quite frankly.
Yeah. Lives ruined over many lives and businesses ruined over it. Families actually destroyed over it. The devil's greatest machine. It's just, it's written right there in Joseph's lyrics, the divide and conquer, that they're talking about there. That's what this is all about. And, you made that comment about Sean Ryan not questioning the state. You're going to see what you're going to see moving forward is that it kind of looked like they were questioning the state, right? Like you go back to when Biden was president not that long ago, and the way that they talk about it, they'll question the Democrat Party. They'll question Biden. They'll say that all these terrible things that we're talking about are due to Biden's policies, right? Well, Biden's gone now, and now the conversation will shift. Now you just saw a piece of how it has shifted and how it will continue to shift, which is now the questions are not questions. They're just propaganda, because they're not going to question the state under Trump. They're happy to question one side of the power politic, but not the ongoing policies. And they will continue to blame this on the failings of the Biden administration and the open border, and the issues they say that groups like Al Qaeda have with America, which is basic bitch talking points like you just heard there from Cheech or Chong. I'm not sure which it was there, which is they hate you for your the old George Bush lines. We're going to go back to that. So really there's nothing new under the sun other than the packaging. the delivery, the personalities, and the technological aspect here that we're dealing with, and the giant shift in media absorption and where that comes from. So you'll see us go back to a Bush era sort of set of talking points here, where it's just clash of ideologies, clash of nations, clash of religions, and never mind the policies, the funding, who trains, why this has been allowed to go on in Idlib, these occupations that are not called occupations, these shadowy things. So we're going to see more of this, and the rhetoric is just going to change ever so slightly, because there won't be a Joe Biden to blame for it, and if there is, it'll be in retrospect, like, oh, this happened because they left the border open for 4 years.
Yeah, it'll find a way, a sort of workaround. Obviously, Trump can't do anything wrong to a lot of people. They're just really elated that he's in office, and for good reason, because really the country was a hellscape under Joe Biden. Let's be honest, folks. It was really worse than you could possibly imagine on so many different levels. So there is that sigh of relief that we have a new government in, and that Trump is definitely a lot more positive vibes in the beginning of his administration than with Joe Biden coming in. It was just a nightmare from the beginning. Now talk about real journalists. Well, a friend of the show and someone who I respect a great deal, Craig Murray, is still in Lebanon. And I wanted to just share he just uploaded this video. He's down there on the areas where Israel's been bombing, and Craig's there in his suit and tie. I mean, he's just old school as can be. This is a report he just filed today, I think. Let's take a look.
South Lebanon, on the day that Israel is supposed to complete its withdrawal from the country, according to the ceasefire agreement. They have not withdrawn. Netanyahu has said they will not withdraw, but Lebanese civilians are trying to return to their homes, and all over southern Lebanon, the Israelis have been massacring unarmed civilians trying to return to their homes. The latest count we have is 41 people shot and injured, 4 people dead. And these are just people trying to go home. And this is after the ceasefire deal finished, and Israel today is meant to have left. And they're not only still here, they are massacring people. And this is the city of Hiam, which is the largest place that Israel actually managed to occupy during the conflict. And here, they've just detonated everything in the city. This is not bombing, this is detonation. We've driven right through the city, and we've probably seen, I would estimate, 1,000 destroyed homes. And that's just what we've seen personally. And this must be what Gaza looks like. It's just extraordinary. I'm really angry to see the level of destruction. We saw a small toddler looking in disbelief at his destroyed home a moment ago, being comforted by his family. This is a microcosm of Gaza, I know, but it really makes you feel it.
Wow. So, it's like Craig Murray, he's there. He's put himself there. He's done some great reporting. He doesn't have, 5 million subscribers like Sean Ryan does. But what Craig Murray has done for the world, for the people of the region, for us, for the world, by putting himself in there, he could easily be enjoying his retirement right now and just kind of chilling out up in Scotland, a little bit of fishing, a little bit of this, what have you. But no, he's inserted himself into the Middle East at great personal expense, financially, physically, politically. He's been harassed by the UK government under the Terrorism Act when he's passing in transit back in the country, like so many others have. And I'm so glad that he took upon this took upon himself this task, guys. Craig is just an amazing guy, but he doesn't get nearly. I mean, Elon's never going to retweet Craig's reporting, even though it's some of the best reporting you could possibly get in the most consequential and biggest conflict of the day. It just shows you how blinkered the whole information spectrum is, and I just wanted to share that with everybody because I got a great deal of respect for Craig for what he's doing.
Yeah, Craig's great. We've had him here on Sunday Wire before. You've had him on your TNT show, and there's no excuse for his work for any of our work. But speaking about him, there's no excuse for it to not be widely known. And same with Seymour Hersh. Same with Freddie Ponton. There's so many people that we could spend the entire show going through the list of people whose journalistic work should be front and center and should have been front and center for the last 10, 20, 30 years in some cases. And it's buried. It's buried in the internet. It's buried in the algorithms. It's as our colleague Hervore would say, buried in the algorithm ghetto. It's just lost, and you have to find it. You have to search it out. And so many people learned this when the Ukrainian conflict popped off. People flooded to Telegram, and then they knew that resource was there. And so did the people of Gaza knew that resource was there, and they used it. And this was mentioned last night on the space. And those Telegram videos were then captured and uploaded to TikTok, where they went completely viral. And what does the U.S. government do? The whole TikTok fiasco. So, it's like, why would you? And Seymour Hersh is like a guy who used to be front and center, right? He was front and center until he wasn't.
He was the goat.
Yeah,
he was the goat for a long time.
Right. And
Yeah.
now he only exists on Substack, pretty much. You never see him on mass media anymore. You have to know to subscribe to his Substack. You have to know to it's the same situation that we're in. So it's like we're trying to come up and elevate our message. We've been doing it for 10, 15 years, longer than that. If you count all the lead up to everything that it took to get here. And they take the greatest of all time. They take him and de-rank him down to where people like us are. I mean, that is a crime against free speech, a crime against truth, a crime against journalism, a crime against our very First Amendment.
They didn't like what he came up with the Nord Stream story. But don't you worry, guys. Don't you worry. It's all changed now because never forget, as of a couple months ago, you are the media. So that's what it's all about. So yeah, everything you've done previous to 3 months ago is null and void. Doesn't exist because that was pre-Elon making this galactic universal declaration that you are the media, or in other words, I am the media. What he's really saying. He's saying you are the media. Anybody that he retweets is the media. Anybody else is doesn't exist, is persona non grata, and that's what Elon's saying there. So, does that make you feel warm and fuzzy inside?
He's clearly making 2 Nazi salutes in that picture, by the way.
Double.
Yeah, that's a double Roman right there. Yeah, it's Roman squared. So there he is. Look at that corporate energy. I love that corporate energy. Reminds me of like Bill Gates dancing on stage at the launch of Windows, which was XP.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, a guy shaped like a South African guy, richest guy in the world, shaped like his own Cybertruck, doing the Tech Bro CEO launch thing, telling you're the media. You're the media if you're on my platform, all right? And you're the media as long as you read all the stuff that I force into your algorithm, and all the Daily Mail style people I force into your algorithm. You can try to block them, you can try to mute them, but this stuff is still going to seep into your algorithm. You're the media on my platform. That's what he's really saying there.
You are the media.
Apparently we don't fall in you.
That's right. You're not Ben Shapiro. So, wow, the Daily Wire. Oh my God, it's basically another mainstream network. So you might as well call it CBS, NBC.
Didn't Ben Shapiro do the wall visit with Elon, or the Auschwitz visit
Yeah.
with Elon? They went together.
I think both of them. I think Ben was, do you remember Thomas Massey said that everyone in Congress has an AIPAC guy?
Yeah.
Remember that? So yeah, Elon's AIPAC guy is basically Ben Shapiro. So I mean, what sort of a hellscape is your life if you can't go anywhere without your chaperone is basically Ben Shapiro.
And Elon's not even in Congress or any elected position. That's how everybody gets an AIPAC guy, I guess. Maybe we all have one and we just don't know it.
Yeah, it's like a guardian angel. Everyone's got an AIPAC guy. So yeah, it's like anyway. Well, I'll bring the AIPAC tracker did a profile on Trump, how much lobby money he received in the 2024 election. Let me see if I can bring this one up on stage. Pretty amazing figure. I have to look at the methodology, of course, as to what makes this figure. But let's just take a look at this for a moment here. What are they saying? It's $230 million, according to Track IPAC. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of spundoolies. 230,473,622 Federal Reserve notes. That's what the Israeli lobby poured into the Trump. That's a lot of money. That's $250 million. And I don't think he needed it, to be honest, guys. I think he was killing Biden in the polls anyway. So what is this money? This is basically the mafia coming to you and saying, hey, I'm going to make an offer you can't refuse. Boom, brown paper bag on the table. And there's no choice. You can't say, no, I don't want the money. No, you take the money. He didn't need the money, guys. Donald Trump could have won without Elon Musk's money, without his endorsement, and without the Israeli lobby pouring in all this cash. That's to me pretty clear just from the polling from April, in the spring. Okay. You see how politics works? This is how it works. This is how it works. He didn't need the money, but he had to take the money. And when you take the money, you owe them, basically. Or you're serving at their pleasure, if you will. Yeah, that's a lot of doolies.
Very, very interesting AIPAC there. I'd be curious to see what Cynthia McKinney would have to say to this. Former American politician, many of you probably know her. I'm pretty sure she was the one that's, kind of blew the whistle on the whole AIPAC handler and, letter and all that stuff that a new person gets when they come into office.
Oh yeah, they have to sign like some Pledge of Allegiance or something to Israel or something or other. I mean, just weird. Yeah, Cynthia is amazing. I think she's teaching university in Bangladesh. She's been in Bangladesh and Dakar for like years. I had the great pleasure of meeting her and spending time with her last year in Moscow, of all places. So that was interesting. Hanging out in Moscow with Cynthia McKinney. She's incredible. She's a trailblazer in terms of like the truth movement or blowing the whistle on 9/11. She did all of that when she was Congresswoman in Georgia, and she should have had a great long career in politics, and she would have been a transformational character, but not with those ideas.
She also wanted disclosure on MLK, JFK, and RFK. She was very big on that, and nobody wanted to listen to her. And now everybody's up in a big fanfare of Donald Trump about saying the exact same thing that she said a long time ago. Go figure.
Wow. Are you saying, Hesher, that there was somebody 20 years ago that was pushing for this that wasn't Elon?
Yeah.
Or sorry, it wasn't Trump? That's impossible, Hesher. What are you talking about?
Right. And it's so popular now. And how did her political career work out? Well, obviously, if she's hanging in a dive bar in Moscow with you, not very good.
One better. I got one better. Elon tweeted out Operation Northwoods. Said, wow. Wow. I can't believe. Have you guys seen this?
Spare me.
Operation Northwoods. Oh my God.
Spare me.
People, this is shocking. What shocking behavior by the CIA.
I think we talked about Northwoods in like our first episode, probably.
Was that 20 years ago? That's when I was like black-pilled on it was 2008. That's when I first heard it. Props to Alex Jones. Without Alex, I wouldn't have known about that because that was in his film Terror Storm, which was a great little documentary. Alex, when you made films, that you were the GOAT. You made amazing documentary films, and then you stopped making documentary films. But you made some incredible films. I think you lost a touch when you stopped making those films. They were brilliant. He made many, many brilliant films. Alex.
He also surrounded himself with brilliant filmmakers like our colleague Jason Burmis.
Yep. Yeah, Jason Burmis, Invisible Empire. Was that one of Jason's films? Jason worked on Loose Change as well.
Correct.
Before the final cut. Yeah, Jason's amazing. He's from that early sort of generation of truth warriors, real independent media. Back when it was alternative media. Now it's independent media, and that means Joe Rogan is independent. And this guy, you guys, we're running out of time, but I can't leave without making you two suffer. Really, you're really going to suffer when I bring this one up. So this is independent media. I'm going to show you, apparently. So I'm told anyway. This is the pinnacle of independent media. This is somebody who you really should be listening to on all important issues that are happening in the world. Why? Because, well, a lot of reasons. One is that he is a born-again Christian, or in this case, a born-again Catholic, and he is just very, very cheeky and super, super intelligent. And because he has so many subs on YouTube, he must know what he's talking about. You guys, you know the vibe, right? You know what I'm talking about. You know
Is it Russell?
Oh, Ruckus has got like extrasensory perception. How did you know I was talking about him?
I know. I just had a feeling. My spidey sense was tingling.
Of all the charlatan podcasters and alt media LARPers, you guessed him. You could have said there's 100 people you could have said. Obviously, we've done.
Well, he's been surrounding himself with interesting people lately.
Who has he been surrounding himself with? Oh, I think a certain JFK's IPAC man, Rabbi Shmuley.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah,
they're sharing. They couldn't afford an APAC guy for each of them, so they're sharing one.
They're sharing Shmuley. That's pretty cringe, actually. Don't even think about that. We won't go there any further. But
I don't want to know about Shmuley's dance card.
No, definitely, I don't either. Nobody does. It's the only thing I feel sorry for Robert F. Kennedy. I have genuine sympathy for RFK to know that when Shmuley calls, he has to answer. And that really bugs me. Like if Shmuley wants to come and invite himself to a family event or a campaign event or something, you can't say no. You're literally stuck for life. Rabbi Superglue. Okay, guys, here we go. My commentary, of course, ladies and gentlemen, Russell Brand, aka Rusty Rockets, on camera declaring that he is a Christian Zionist and that God is an estate agent or a real estate agent. God is a Century 21 agent with a gold blazer. Then out the other side of his mouth, he is basically saying war and violence is wrong. And I'm saying to Russ, as if these two things were mutually exclusive. Come on, Russell. Seriously. So Russell Brand saying, I'm a Christian. Let's get that out of the way. Good for you. Love that. And I believe that Israel deserves a homeland. That means you're a Christian Zionist. Now we're into some shady weeds here. I also believe that war and violence is wrong. okay, how do you resolve these conflicting ideological and beliefs, guys? So let's listen to Russell, and we'll get your reaction here. This is one of the world's top philosophers, and he's shortlisted to be a new member of the IDW. That's the International Intellectual Dark Web. Here we are.
I actually do believe that Israel deserve a homeland and that the Jewish people have a homeland. I'm a Christian, so I do believe that. I also believe that war and violence is wrong, and that there is a general sense that the more powerful tribe or group have a greater responsibility to bring about peace in conflicts. So I don't know what that makes me, baby, but I tell you this, Heavenly Father, I pray for peace. I pray that the people of Israel and the people of Palestine can live in peace. And if it is your will, Lord, it will happen. I actually do believe.
All I can say is God have mercy on that man's soul. Your
Blasphemy.
reactions. Ruckus, what do you think about that? I mean,
blasphemy.
I mean,
I mean, why is he, and his body language and everything, he tries to be crazy. Yeah. If that dude is an actual Christian, I don't say this about many people, but if that guy's a Christian, then I'm a billionaire, Satan worshiping 33rd degree high level Freemason. There you go. That's what I think about the whole thing. He's the ultimate grifter. He found a very convenient grift for many reasons, and a lot of folks can see it. It's kind of obvious.
Are you sold by this proselytizing?
The guy's a comedian, okay? Let's face it. Your roots are in comedy. The majority of your audience are people that watch rom-coms all night on Netflix, and then come to you for a little bit of current events, right? Like you look up to him and you say, okay, yeah, I don't like war and death either, but I certainly, have watched enough Sean Ryan clips to know that I don't want to see Israel destroyed by guys in paragliders, and we certainly should make some space in our hearts for ethnic cleansing and genocide so that they can destroy buildings in Lebanon because of the paraglider incident, and then you get into all the other beheaded babies and all that stuff. But yeah, who is your audience, I think, is the big question here. And much like Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn, and I'm sorry if I'm slamming any of your favorite comedians right now out there, but they are comedians that have podcasts, and they're not reaching people that have a sophisticated literacy in geopolitics and theology.
I mean, elevating these comedians to the top of society, to the top of political life, guys, all I can say is what could possibly go wrong with
also a good buddy of Diddy. Let's not forget he's a good buddy of Diddy and Ashton Kutcher and all these people right now that are being connected to insane sex cult stuff, blackmail, accusations of being involved in people's murders, perhaps. This is the circle of people that some go to for some sort of geopolitical benchmark, and that is like you failed before you launched.
No, seriously, you can't. The only political conversations or war or whatever, the only people that get platformed pretty much in the mainstream media are comedians. Basically, it's the only acceptable pundit. So on the left, you've got what? Jon Stewart, right? Got Jon Stewart. He's a political news source for people. Does Stephen Colbert count? He's more entertainment, I guess. Not even entertaining, but entertainment. So it's Stewart, and then Rogan, comedian, right?
Don't forget Crying Kimmel. Maybe you already said him, but yeah, he likes to cry on camera.
Kimmel. Yeah, he's Kimmel. Oh, he's crying. Who else? Rogan, comedian, right?
Yeah.
That's his background. He's a comedian.
Well, we'll give Rogan a bit of a entertainment renaissance, man. He's a comedian first and foremost, but he's a few other things too.
Fighter,
Sport, comedy,
UFC guy,
biohacking, whatever he's interested in.
There are some
Brand.
who say Alex Jones got his start in comedy as Bill Hicks.
Don't even go
Just
there.
kidding.
We
Don't
had to go
start on this, Ruckus, please. Oh, we're in such a good sane flow, and you just had to drop that one in there.
I'm just having fun.
That's like a literal IED.
I
In
think
the cover.
Alex's recent weight cut proves he's definitely not Bill Hicks. If anything, he's like the grandson of Lenin or something.
I actually had to. I was dating a girl who thought that Alex Jones was Bill Hicks, and it was at the time I was doing some work with him, and I just couldn't take it. It was just impossible. We had to split up over that issue. Can you believe that? It's literally. I mean, talk about invading your life. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously.
Well, you really were on the forefront of that one.
Yeah, I was definitely on the forefront. So yeah, Jimmy Dore, who I like. I think Jimmy's brilliant, but he's a comedian, and it's kind of seen as Dave Smith is the new one. He's like the voice of politics and war and peace, whatever. Again, a comedian, and these people will be platformed to no end by Piers Morgan and everybody else. But anybody who's a serious analyst, aside from a few, John Mearsheimer's getting a bit of a look in. But a lot of the really good ones, you could tell that they're not fit to be on any of these programs because they don't want people looking at their body of work, basically.
I gotta give Dave Chappelle a shout out right now. I love that he is not in this orbit of Joe Rogan. You know, Joe Rogan, all the comedians that Joe Rogan is friends with are now all getting elevated, and they're all adding politics to their shtick, which is, you know, weak in my opinion, because where were you during COVID? You know, all of a sudden it's like, okay, it's cool. People get, you know, rich and famous doing this. So now they all want to get involved. But look at Chappelle. He doesn't do that. He doesn't go around and try to do that stuff. And then when he gets a huge platform, if it still is like Saturday Night Live, he'll actually mention what's going on in Palestine, you know? So, you know, I don't always give him shout outs. I've given him a lot of criticism in the past also, but when I compare him to his contemporaries right now, you know, here in 2025, I got to appreciate him a little bit more than some of these other orbiters and barnacles.
No, definitely. You mentioned Dave Chappelle. I mean, he's worth giving a shout out to. Maybe sort of see if we can get Dave up on screen here. That sort of epic, many viral videos. And he did say something, I think, after Jimmy Carter passed away, and mentioned the Palestinian issue, which is verboten in like Hollywood mainstream entertainment. To say anything about it will get you. Has he been on Joe Rogan, Dave Chappelle?
Yes.
Yeah. Dave Chappelle,
I think
class
it's been a minute. I don't think it's been since this started, but I don't follow it too closely.
I mean, how many guys? It's a simple thing from, you know, gentlemanly observation. How many guys can rock a suit and a tie clip and a handkerchief like that? I mean, the guy is just smart. I mean, not many people can rock that outfit, but he's got class, and he's incredibly clever, and he's absolutely fearless. You know,
Clearly anti-Semitic or something, right?
Yeah, right. According to the new IHR definition, the elastic definition. Yeah, no, great. Got big respect for Dave. Always, especially when he made his comeback, second half of his career, when he came back from South Africa. He's just been there on so many important issues. So yeah, we're very appreciative of people like that are out there. The world needs them. We need them. Everybody needs these guys. So he's one of these guys that can't be bought. Sort of, the music industry has them. It used to have them. Guys like Prince and other guys. But they are in short supply, unfortunately. These are endangered species, perhaps of a bygone era. Who knows? But we got to keep the spirit alive. Guys, your final thoughts. We're going to break up the broadcast now. It's been an amazing show. I really appreciate you guys joining us, and thank you both Adam Ruckus Clark and Bryan McClain, aka Hesher. Thank you for joining us on our epic space on X last night. I got some amazing feedback from people that tuned in. They're so appreciative of the conversation that we had with Jason Leosatos. Joe Santos came. There's some crypto with Simon Dixon, some amazing people. So yeah, you guys, thank you very much for joining us. It was definitely an amazing space. We're starting to build up a really good audience on X. And I think people really appreciate the type of conversations that we're having there. So it's something for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great one last night, and a really good follow on today. I'm hoping that Layla can join us another time. Sorry that didn't work out today. Really looking forward to her perspective and enjoy her commentary always. And to Ruckus and you and Dr. Foster and everybody out there watching, thank you so much for being here with us. And we'll look forward to doing it again. You can check us out at Alternate Current Radio. Check out the Boiler Room. AlternateCurrentRadio.com is the website. There's links to it at the 21stCenturyWire.com page on all the Sunday Wire posts and up in the menu as well. And I really enjoyed everything. Some crazy times that we're in, but this is one of those times where we sort of shine. And I always enjoyed the up until COVID happened, I enjoyed the politics of the first Trump presidency. It was a bit of a, I just found it to be more, I don't know if fun is the right word, but I had a lot more fun analyzing the current events during that administration. I found the 4 years of Joe Biden and the last 4 years of Obama to be particularly oppressive. And I know a lot of you feel that way as well, regardless of what you think about power politics and the right and the left being the two wings of the same bird. There's a different there's a different zeitgeist right now, and I really hope that the violence can de-escalate and that financial situations can get better, and we can have, some, it's not going to be perfect. I was saying last night, Trump, could you shut down the ATF, please? I know that's pie in the sky. He's probably not going to do it. Could you shut down Homeland Security? Could you have Tulsi go through there and just sunset it, please? Could you get the skull and bones out of the CIA, or just sunset that? Could you get rid of the federal income tax? Maybe you'll get that one. Could we get some justice on the inequities of and unconstitutional attacks of the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 100 years? I don't know. But that zeitgeist flip is not something I want to belittle or forget about, because I really hope and feel that we've got an opportunity here, and we'll have to see how it goes. And we're going to be here calling balls and strikes per usual, no matter what administration it is. I've said on the Boiler Room, especially during the Trump era, this is a show that is probably too left for your right friends and probably too right for your left friends. So join us. That's the whole point. We just want to take an honest take and analysis on what we see happening, with a lot of historical context, and keeping in mind the writings and plans and musings and collaborations of technocrat authoritarians. That's really what we want to do. So the more we have these conversations, the more effective we can be about that. The more we have them live with you and in front of you, the better you'll be at doing that in your circles, in your workplaces. And everybody's enjoying this new feeling of emboldenment right now. I can say these things now. I can finally say and post these things that, maybe I've been watching and listening to and thinking about in the closet for the last few years, because I don't want to lose the respect of my coworkers and my family, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the cultural tides have shifted a little bit late for some of us, but nonetheless, we're in the middle of a shift. So, don't let it get you down too much. Let's see if we can avoid some of the worst things that we're worried about, like continuing genocide, continuing war, continuing deficit spending, going above our $32 trillion in debt we already are, worrying about financial collapse. Let's see if we can, perhaps by becoming smart citizens and smart media consumers and participants, navigate away from all that.
Absolutely. And much smarter than this, much smarter than that on the
Yes.
stream there. Just put it away for the moment. Ruckus, your final thoughts here before we wrap things up.
Yeah, thanks for having me on all the things, including the space last night, which was fantastic. Yeah, we need smarter people, not smarter cities, everybody. It's fascinating to me that there's this general conversation emerging from the Trump Part 2 administration with the backing of all the techno bros, the technocrats, and that SoftBank OpenAI deal with the Project Stargate and all that stuff there. Now, this is a renaissance when nothing could be further from the truth, because a renaissance was like an illumination of the society that we were supposed to be like. That's when we got all smart again, right? Because before then we were too dumb to read or know things. Why we had high level priest classes interpreting everything for us, including the stars and the constellations, and freaking everybody out with things that were going to happen, like eclipses, and getting them to sacrifice themselves, and bizarre shit in history, folks. Excuse my French. But they want us to think, oh, we're in a moment where we're getting smarter, we're evolving as a species. When they're supporting the exact opposite, we're getting dumber by all these smart devices, all the AI that they're pushing on us. This is actually something that I brought up on a recent episode of my show, The Daily Ruckus, but the AI, we're losing what it means to actually use that muscle, the most powerful muscle that we have, which is our brain. We're offloading all of these tasks that we used to do, like using that brain and creatively problem solving and doing things. We're giving that to the AI, and they just like warp speeded that with this Project Stargate thing. The Stargate, as far as I'm concerned, is far less about the vaccines than it is about, stimulating this new infrastructure for AI agents, which, according to all the job reports you look at, including coming from the dreaded WEF, I mean, everyone's going to lose their jobs this year. I did a reporting about a bunch of new upcoming AI agents and technologies that people should be aware of, but then I followed that up with an episode about all of the stores, all of the retail brick and mortars that are closing down. So the economy is definitely going to be something to keep a very close watch on, and you should check out that X space that we did last night, assuming it will let you hear it. I'm seeing lots of people saying they're having issues with that. We'll look into that. But especially Simon Dixon, his input, and what that lady was saying, Daniela, I forgot her last name. I apologize.
Daniela Walls.
Yes. What she said, very important. There's a meeting coming up by this corporation, this cryptocurrency project called Ondo Finance. They're having some special meeting next week, and this is something I've been hearing about for a year, 2 years in advance of Trump, before Trump was even elected. So this is one of those chosen winners. They're going to use this to basically tokenize everything, but they're going to start with the stock markets. And once you get the stock markets involved dealing with crypto, blockchain, game's over, folks. So if you're out there messing with crypto, no financial advice, but this might be your last chance before they cut us all off. So very frightening things to keep an eye on, in particular with the technology, the loss of jobs. And ultimately, I see this president offering us some sort of like stimulus that's going to usher us straight into some sort of social credit, universal basic income, all the things that we said, oh no, we don't want that, Klaus Schwab. Oh no, Bill Gates, we're not interested. And then here's MAGA just like going, yay, you are the media, feed us your little crypto. Because Elon Musk is about to release his X money, by the way. Final thought there.
Oh, that's all we need. Oh yeah, more of that. Yes, that'll power the new media on X, the fake news. There's the space right there, guys. Trump, a Renaissance or Apocalypse. That's up there, January 25th. That's a recorded space, which we did last night, which was amazing convo. And again, big shout. Simon Dixon came in there and just lit it on fire. I really liked his economic analysis. It all comes back to the economy, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry to say, it usually comes down to the dollars and cents. So we try to keep our eyes on that. Amazing. Thank you for that, Ruckus. Yeah, we didn't talk much about Project Stargate today on the Sunday Wire. We did cover it. We did do quite a lot on the space there. So again, if you want to get more of that, just check it out on my X feed there. You'll find all of us on the panel. Great discussions, about 4 hours. But you can do that passively while you're doing other chores around the house. And if you want to join the live stream on that, we're usually doing that around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays. So, and usually run about a couple of hours. That one went a little bit long, about 4 hours anyway. Kind of late down here in the UK from my time, but definitely worth doing. We have so many great people participating in that amazing forum. But that's all we got time for. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Take care, and do follow everybody. Follow if you're watching us on social media now. Follow Adam Ruckus Clark and of course Hesher Media on X, and you'll find Adam Clark AC_wordslinger. Is that correct? We got
yes,
that
sir.
right. And Hesher Media there on X as well, and you'll see the links, also their content, which they're posting regularly there. Incredible broadcast today, folks, and we really covered a lot of ground. Pleased that you could join us. And again, apologies to our other guests from Beirut, Layla Hatoum. We'll reschedule that. We'll make that happen, perhaps during the week, maybe next week. We'll see. But we definitely value her input. And thank you to Dr. Zachary Foster, who's joining us from Mexico City for basically weighing in on this. Palestine Nexus is Zachary Foster's publication, plus the courses that he runs there. First class. Everything that Zach does is amazing. So we highly recommend you support Zach and his work. At least give him a follow. Great information there. That's the type of person that you want to be following. But that's all we got time for today. Thank you guys very much. And again, a reminder, if you like what we do and you like the work that we're doing, you like the subject matter that we're doing, the fact that we're challenging the sacred cows, that we're actually questioning the billionaire class, that everybody seems to want to kind of give a free pass on pretty much everything now. Plus, we're going to call balls and strikes, as Hesher said. That's what we're going to do. It doesn't matter who's in power. We have our political preferences and leanings, of course. Just because we're, criticizing the government of the day doesn't mean that we're quietly supporting it, hoping that it does a better job. Because in my mind, anyway, that's true patriotism, is you want your government and your country to do better, to be better at home and abroad. This is why we do what we do. If you want to support us, there's many different ways you can do it. We appreciate anything. A lot of you guys, your regular listeners who have chipped in for this winter fundraising drive, help us to reach our goal, hopefully by February or the end of February, whatever the case may be. This will help us to fund the operation for the next 12 months. And we have a lot of stuff to do in the next year. And we've been doing it for many years now. I want to keep doing it. Thank you for your support. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. This has been an incredible edition of the Sunday Wire. Again, thank you for joining us. Enjoy the outro and the music of one of our great friends, probably Joseph Arthur. We've got queued up here, one of his previous videos, but I think all too poignant in terms of what's going on in Palestine right now and in Gaza and the West Bank. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.
Genocide is never justified. There ain't no reason, 'cause human beings are more than just a kind, defined by race or religion. 'Cause we all have souls and a mission here on earth. Only God knows why. You can't decide their death, 'cause you weren't here for their birth or their first laugh or cry. Don't let the children die. Don't let the children die. Sisters and brothers, we know it's wrong when we see their fathers cry with their mothers. Genocide is never justified. There ain't no reason